SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder.
Good morning and welcome to Senate Education. I would ask everyone to take their seats and have their cell phones turned to vibrate or silent. If you plan on testifying today, please make sure to sign in at the back of the room. If you are testifying and have handouts, please have the pages, distribute them to committee members. Lobbyists, make sure you are wearing a badge and the badge is clearly visible. Welcome to everyone joining us online. If you need to contact us, our committee contact can be found on the legislative website. Lastly, a reminder that all testimony and questions are to be addressed through the chair. At this time, I would have the secretary call the roll.
Senators Marty.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Peterson excused. Sauter. Here. Smith excused. Voigt.
Here.
Shanefish.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
This time I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Moved by Senator Voigt, second by Senator Sauter. Comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. This time I would ask say have the pages I would ask the pages to come up and introduce themselves when you have a chance. Tell us any fun facts about yourself, where you're from, what your future plans might be.
My name is Levi Atkins. I'm from Willow Lake, South Dakota. I'm a senior. My future plans are to go to Northern for elementary education, and in my free time I like to play sports and sing.
Well, you picked the right committee to be in.
My name is Hannah DeLine. I'm a senior at Mitchell Christian. I'm planning to attend Dordt University, majoring in kinesiology with a minor in criminal justice. And in my free time, I like to run cross country.
All right, great. I was a cross-country athlete myself, so great sport. Any personal privileges? Oh. All right, with that, we will move into our agenda. First up, we have House Bill 1311, an act to require the reporting of funding given by certain persons and governments to institutions under the control of the Board of Regents and the South Dakota Board of Technical Education. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Ed Committee. Good to be back here today. On behalf of the Senate Prime and myself, I bring to you today House Bill 1311. But before I do that, I should tell you where I'm from. I represent District 19 along with the chair of your committee. That's a few counties in southeastern South Dakota. That's Bonham, Hanson, Hutchinson, McCook, and Southwest Turner. So again, today I bring to you House Bill 1113. This legislation is about one thing: transparency. It requires the Board of Technical Education and the Board of Regents to disclose funding received from foreign sources. Under federal law, currently, these institutions have to disclose donations over $250,000 from foreign entities. This bill fills the gap between $0 and $250,000. Under this bill, a foreign source includes a foreign entity, a foreign government, or a foreign person from the following countries: the People's Republic of China, the Republic of Cuba, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the Russian Federation, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Reporting would be published online by August 31st each year if a donation is received. This bill is not about discouraging international collaboration. This is a preventive measure to ensure trust and transparency in our higher ed institutions. This is about accountability going forward. Students and South Dakota taxpayers deserve to know where the money is coming from, and they deserve confidence that decisions on campus stay rooted in education, not outside influence. Transparency builds trust. Trust strengthens our institutions, and our strong institutions that we have right now strengthen South Dakota and the future of our great state. And before I kick it off to the next testifier, I do want to also mention that I'm a proud Board of Regents graduate from the University of South Dakota. So with that, I encourage your support of House Bill 1311. Thank you for your time. I'll stand by.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Chad Peterson. I'm originally from Wakanda, and I'm a registered lobbyist for State Shield Action. Here today in support of 1311. State Shield's mission is to protect the peace, security, and freedoms of the United States. They do this by confronting the growing threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party and other hostile foreign governments to our supply chain, technology, food system, infrastructure, and education system. This bill protects the latter. 7 states have already passed higher education disclosure since 2021: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Texas. A dozen other states are currently debating similar bills in their legislature right now. Like the representative said, we already disclosed donations over $250,000 at the federal level. This just fills in the gap between $0 to $250,000. Simply brings transparency and security. It's a common sense solution that doesn't require a big burden on our education systems. I'd respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony. Is there any more proponent testimony? All right, seeing none, is there any opponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? All right, seeing none, we will waive the rebuttal. Questions from the committee? Committee, Senator Voigt.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask the sponsor. Question is this an after-the-fact situation? Have we had foreign entities accessing or making contributions to our education system?
Mr. Chair, Drew Peterson, District 19. Thank you for that question, Senator. Not to my knowledge. I don't believe that there is a problem, so to speak, with this issue. I haven't had anything brought to my attention. In my opinion, this was meant to be more of a proactive approach. And I can differentiate a little bit too. So over $250,000, they already have to do this for all foreign countries. Under 250, it narrows it up a little bit. It's just those 6 countries that we talk about a lot in this building the last few years. It's really focused on those. But again, to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any issue currently.
If I could follow up while you're there. Does this address non-public entities in the state in terms of education system, private schools, private universities?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chair, Drew Peterson, District 19. And that's great to have me differentiate between the two, because so this only addresses Board of Regents and Board of Technical Education colleges. So any private university, any reservation university or technical school, this does not apply to them. And so the technical colleges are Western Dakota in Rapid, Mitchell Tech in Mitchell, Southeast in Sioux Falls, and then Lake Area in Watertown, and then the 6 regental universities as well. Only those.
Thank you.
All right. Further questions from the committee? All right, committee discussion and/or action. Senator Sauter.
I appreciate Representative Peterson bringing this, and I do appreciate being proactive instead of reactive.
All right, further comments from the committee? Senator Voigt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. A concern that I have is this may not cover the landscape. It covers public entities in the state, doesn't address private entities. That's probably a future consideration.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further comments from the committee, the secretary will call the roll.
Senators Marty?
Aye.
Nelson? Aye. Peterson excused. Sauter?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Voigt?
Aye.
Shanefish?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, 6 yea, 1 excused.
Motion carries. If there is no objection, I would certify this bill for the consent calendar. All right, 1311 will be on consent. Up next on our agenda, we have House Bill 1082, establish parameters for the reimbursement of school districts that provide free or reduced price meals to students. We'll have 20 minutes for proponent testimony. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brandon Whipp. I represent the 22nd District in the State Senate, and we have for you today an opportunity for our state to deliver targeted aid to where the need is the greatest with regards to school lunch. That's why I signed on to this. I feel like there's been several different ideas about how we could address school lunch, and by passing the bill that's before you, we'll be able to deliver that need where it's that aid to where the need is the greatest. I'll just tell you a little bit about my school experience. I attended a school where school lunch was just included. The clock got to noon and you went and ate. It wasn't a financial transaction. We didn't have to worry about that as kids. Even now as an adult on the farm, Dad and I are working. It gets to be noon. We go inside, there's a meal ready for us. By some days by 12:10, we got our boots back on and we're back out to work. I would say I was a better student back then because I didn't have to worry about lunch, just like I'm a better farmer now because of it. And so I would really encourage you guys to think about that. And then finally, you know, when you look at how much we invest in education in total, I think this would be a smart way for us to protect that investment by making sure that kids are able to focus on their studies and not on what's the school lunch balance going to say when I get up to the front of the line. Are the other kids going to notice that I'm, you know, not getting treated the same as them? And we're not putting school boards in a tough spot where either they make a kid go hungry or they feed them and eat the cost. And so I really, I'd ask that you consider this. I'll just throw out one farming example because I usually have to boil things down to that for me to understand it. Good farmers know that you have to put seed and fertilizer out there to have a crop, but the great farmers figured out a while ago that if you feed the soil first, that your investments in fertilizer pay off a lot better. So if you have your drainage and your soil pH and things like that worked out, the fertilizer you put out there gets you a better return on your investment. If you don't have that worked out, you can put as much fertilizer out there as you want and never see a return for it. And so that's why I really ask that you'd consider supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. For the proponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Representative Caden Whitman, District 15 in Sioux Falls. This bill is extremely narrow and targeted. It does not expand eligibility. It does not create a new program. It reimburses our school districts for students who already qualify under the federally reimbursed reduced price category. These are families who have already filled out the paperwork. We have already verified their income. They were determined eligible under existing law. They are working families who are earning up to 185% of the federal poverty line, which is approximately $49,000 for a family of 4 annually. They do not qualify for free meals, but they are still living on extremely tight margins. For those families, this bill will provide immediate relief. Schools are already serving these meals, the costs are already being incurred, and right now that gap is being absorbed through district budgets, property taxpayers, and community fundraising. This bill creates a consistent reimbursement structure at the state level. The fiscal note is approximately $600,000 annually based on current participation, and the only way that amount will grow is if the number of families qualifying under federal poverty guidelines grows. The framework is already defined. We are simply aligning reimbursement with existing reality, not expanding it. We mandate attendance in our schools, and we fund every other component of the education system because we recognize that learning requires basic conditions. Nutrition during the school day is one of those conditions. This is not an expansion, it is a stabilization, and it offers immediate relief to working families who have already demonstrated eligibility under the law. I respectfully ask for your favorable consideration and stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the committee. My name is Bob Dielstra. I drove all the way this morning from Minnehaha County to ask for your favorable consideration of this House bill. I would offer major dittos to the remarks of the representative from Sioux Falls, as nutrition plays a vital role in the development and learning. It happens from time to time that the only meal of the day for some students is while they are at school. I would ask for the committee for a do pass recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the committee.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jesse Severson, and I serve as the Vice President of Hungry Hearts out of Sioux Falls, a South Dakota nonprofit dedicated to ensure that no child goes without access to a hot school lunch because of financial hardships. Over the past 7 years, through the community fundraising efforts, partnerships, and thousands of individual donors, we have raised close to $1 million. Nearly every dollar of this has gone directly back into our schools to help cover meal debt, support children who have fallen into what we call the gap. Under current and federal guidelines, children between 135% and 185% of that federal poverty level qualify for reduced lunches, but that does not mean free. For many families living paycheck to paycheck, that reduced amount is still too much. These are working families, often two-income households, who do not qualify for full assistance but are one unexpected expense away from falling behind. Through our work with the Sioux Falls School District and other districts across the state, we can consistently see that this demographic is the most likely to accumulate meal debt. When debt builds, lunch privileges are restricted, and when that happens, consequences are real. When a child does not eat, academic performance suffers, test scores drop, behavioral issues increase, attendance decreases, mental health challenges grow. A child cannot focus on the lesson of the day when their stomach is growling louder than their teacher's voices. A child cannot thrive socially or emotionally when they are worried about whether they will be denied a meal at lunch that day. I speak to you not only as a nonprofit leader, but also as a parent. I was one of those parents who fell just over the assistance threshold, remembering and hoping, did I have enough money in my child's lunch account so they would not face the embarrassment of being denied. That stress is real, and the children feel it. House Bill 1082 is not a handout to parents. These funds go directly to the schools. The children have already been identified as financially vulnerable. This bill simply closes the gap so that they can eat without stigma or without debt. The financial impact, approximately $600,000, is manageable, even accounting for growth in our state's population. In context and overall budget, this is a modest investment with extraordinary return. The return on this investment is measurable in strong classroom performance, better workforce development, reduced behavioral intervention costs, and healthier children. We invest millions into higher education and workforce pipelines. But what happens if that child doesn't reach that point because they fall behind early? What happens if hunger contributes to a trajectory that cannot recover from? These children do not choose their family income. They do not choose their parents' financial literacy, but we as leaders choose whether they eat. This is not red or blue. It is not about party line. This is about right or wrong. It's about whether we believe the future leaders of South Dakota deserve to sit in a classroom without hunger standing in their way. I respectfully ask for you give House Bill 1082 a due pass recommendation and then allow it to move to the Senate floor. Thank you for your time, and I stand by for any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sam Nelson, and I'm a registered lobbyist for the Sioux Falls and Rapid City school districts. I just want to commend the prime sponsors for bringing this bill and say me too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further proponent testimony.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jennifer Stalley on behalf of the American Heart Association, and just want to show our support for House Bill 1082, affiliate ourselves with the remarks of the previous speakers, and just give a brief look at this through the lens of public health. So we know that in the next 25 years, at least 6 in 10 U.S. adults are going to be projected to have some form of cardiovascular disease. If we do nothing by 2050, we can expect that our obesity rates will rise from 43% to 60%, incurring not only the health challenges that the person has, but the healthcare costs to our healthcare system alone. To put that in perspective, and why I'm talking about a 2050 projection today, a 6-year-old in our classroom today will be 30 in 2050. So what we're doing today affects our ability to change that trajectory in 2050. Poor nutrition is a leading contributor of chronic diseases such as diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular disease. And there is growing recognition that our policies must move beyond addressing food quantity and focus more intentionally on nutritional quality and access. We know that students that have access to nutrition during school participate more, have improved quality in their nutrition, their food security decreases, and their academic performance improves, as well as their attendance increasing. For the benefit that this bill brings not only to the children today, but to public health 25 years down the road, we would ask that you support House Bill 1082.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Bockerny. I'm the registered lobbyist for the South Dakota Association for the Education of Young Children. I also serve as the CEO of the Economic Development Professionals Association. I want to make a couple comments this morning. First, for around the Association for the Education of Young Children. Had the privilege of serving on the statewide child care task force over the last 3 years. It's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least, and just want to echo all the comments that have been made by the previous speakers and just let you know that they are 100% correct. We just received some updated statistics and data last week from a year-long report that we did and had completed for us, and the statistics overwhelmingly show the importance of investments such as this and the long-term returns that are gained from an investment such as this. Now I want to switch and talk from an economic development standpoint. Why in the world would economic development care about something like this? I'm going to tell you why. This bill for us is really fundamentally about student success, which leads directly to workforce stability. All the data we have clearly shows that children who are equally well-fed are healthier, more focused, and better able to learn. When at school, the kids get consistent access to meals, it directly yields results for the parents who are out in the workforce. Gives them greater confidence that their children's most basic needs are being met. They are being treated equally, which directly supports workforce participation, attendance, performance, and output. Those are extremely important to employers. You will see anywhere from a 20 to a 30% increase in those items that I just mentioned. And what that does is it yields a return not only for the family, but also for the children. We feel very strongly that this bill is a practical investment in kids, families, and the workforce of South Dakota. And we respectfully ask for your support. I'll stand by for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the proponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sandra Waltman with the South Dakota Education Association. Just going to do a Me Too. Our educators know that kids who are hungry cannot learn, and it often leads to a lot of the issues you heard about, behavioral issues, an inability to pay attention. So we think this is a great bill and a great step forward. We would encourage you a yes vote.
All right, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Education Committee. I'm Diana Miller, registered lobbyist for the Large School Group, and I think that all of the proponents have spoken very well about this particular bill and the fairness of it, both for kids and for parents and for the state. The fact of the matter is it covers all three, and not often do you see a bill that helps out everybody, and economic development. So I would encourage you to support House Bill 1082 and send it to the floor. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I think that's the shortest testimony you've ever given, so congratulations.
That in and of itself should get a vote.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Justin Bell. I'm a registered lobbyist for the South Dakota State Medical Association. We just want to be on the record of supporting this. Would associate our comments with that of Ms. Dolly, that adolescent nutrition is a public health issue, leads to higher outcomes both in public health and in education, and we would support this legislation and ask that you pass it to the floor with a do pass recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Rob Munson, Executive Director, School Administrators of South Dakota. In the first few days of my role as an elementary principal, I typed up on Microsoft Word, do what is best for the children first, do everything else next. I can't think of a better way to put that into practice than to pass this bill today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any more proponent testimony in the room? More in-room proponent testimony. Okay, with that, we will move into our... Three remote testifiers on the list. We'll give them each 2.5 minutes. We're doing pretty good on time. So let's take them order on the list. First up, we'll have Gary Anderson. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Hey, Anderson. Yes, my apologies, Mr. Anderson. Okay, we can't hear you. We're just, okay, Ms. Anderson, you're still muted.
There, I believe you can hear me now. This is Gay Anderson. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Education Committee. I am Gay Anderson. I represent myself. I do serve as the Child Nutrition Coordinator for the Sioux Falls School District. In this role, I have witnessed firsthand the profound impact of providing meals to students in all ranges, but especially whose families qualify in the free and reduced price category when the remaining cost is covered for reduced students. Sioux Falls School District is currently in our third year of covering reduced meal costs, but we're only able to do this though because of available reserve reserve funds. This approach is not always sustainable for the long term. To some of us, 40 cents for lunch and 30 cents for breakfast may not seem like much, but for many of our families, that small amount, daily amount, is significant. When I tell parents that we're able to cover the cost of their meals, I've had some cry. They tell me how much it means to them, what it means makes a difference for their family. And for families already stretching every dollar, this support relieves great stress. During this period, meal debt has significantly reduced in our district. This matters not only for the families, but also for the district, as unpaid meal debt most ultimately is to be covered by the general fund. I'd like to just ask you all to take a moment and think about how you feel when you get hungry. Even briefly, hunger affects our moods, our patience, our focus, and our productivity. Now imagine being that student who is expected to learn, participate, and perform while feeling that way. When students are well fed, we see the difference. They focus better in class, classroom behavior improves. There's fewer visits to the nurses for stomach aches and headaches that are caused by hunger. And most importantly, students feel better about themselves because they're better able to engage in the purpose of school, which is learning. This bill is not about political party affiliation. It's about the people and the communities you represent and ensuring that our students, our future leaders, have the nourishment they need to succeed. The bill sponsor, Caden Whitman, has also shared many times with us that she has once experienced this struggle herself. She's been open about it. I would venture to guess that others in our state legislature understand it personally as well, or know hardworking families who face these challenges every day. I respectfully urge you to support our students and their ability to learn and thrive. Please vote yes on House Bill 1082. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Up next on the list, we have Gavin Erdman. Mr. Erdman, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Gavin Erdman, and I'm currently a junior at Harrisburg High School. I'm the vice president of the student council at Harrisburg, but today I'm not representing my school, but rather I'm representing myself as a student and as somebody who has seen firsthand the effects of students not having meals to eat at school. As most of you know, after the 2021 to 2022 school year, free lunches were no longer provided to every student, and as an effect of this, many students were unable to get meals at school. One of my friends, who I met when free meals were universal, was and still is one of these students. This friend was very active, participating in basketball and track and field. But once he and his family were required to pay for meals, the change in his life was visible. What I didn't know then was that they qualified for reduced meal pricing. But even so, they simply still didn't have enough money to pay for lunch every day. There were days or even full weeks that he did not eat lunch at all, which did not go unnoticed. In the mornings when we had band, he would always ask the director if there were any snacks or leftover breakfast, just because he didn't have any breakfast at home. And in classes, he would lose focus and fall behind. It was very seldom he wasn't sent to what Harrisburg called Power Hour, which is essentially an extra period before and after school dedicated to purely doing schoolwork and getting caught up with the pace of the rest of the class. He started to ask me and the others who sat near him at the lunch table to get an extra serving or a piece of bread or any type of fruit. During this trying time for him, he was forced to quit the sports he loved to play because he knew that there was no way that his body could provide enough energy to get him through a practice or game. Moving into our high school years, our friend group was separated during lunch periods simply due to the fact that there were more periods and more students in the high school than in the middle school. But as a result of this one particular friend no longer had any type of help from the rest of us like he did in middle school. Eventually, his family decided that sending him to school with a loaf of bread would be less expensive than having to pay the prices for reduced price meals. This bread, of course, drew unwanted attention, and even though he ate something every day, he was lacking the necessary nutrition to live a healthy life. But now, as he is a high school junior, he's been able to get himself a part-time job, which he uses to pay for his food at school and at home. But even with his job, his family still falls in the threshold of qualification for reduced price meals. His job does not provide for bulletproof access to meals. However, as if he is sick or just can't get hours at his job, he simply has to live with the reality that he most likely won't eat lunch or breakfast every day in the next week. But since he has been able to provide meals for himself, he has been able to join sports again for the first time since 7th grade. He's been keeping up with his classes, and he's becoming more involved in extracurriculars that were restricted to him before due to his financial difficulties. In the last semester, where he ate at least 2 nutritious meals a day, he qualified for a national debate competition, he enrolled in every single advanced class he could and passed all of them, and he made the tennis team. But what should not be lost in the success that him and his family have been able to achieve is that there was a middle school and high school aged boy who every day would come to school embarrassed and scared. Embarrassed when he checked his lunch account balance and saw nothing was in it, embarrassed that he only ate bread for entire weeks, and embarrassed when he asked people for food. He was scared that new people every day would learn of his situation, and scared that when he did check his lunch account balance that there would be nothing there. My friend essentially lost months on end of his developmental years due to something that for most of us is easy to do. So today, I respectfully ask of all of you to please vote yes to approve House Bill 1082, because not only is it going to end the hunger and embarrassment and financial worries for families, it is going to do so immediately, which is of the utmost importance to the approximate 10,000 kids in South Dakota that will be affected by this bill. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Erdman. Up next, we will have Coy Sassy. Go ahead, Mr. Sassy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Coy Sassy. I'm the Chief Financial and Operations Officer for the Rapid City Area School District. I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony on this very important topic. As you all have heard at length in your testimony this morning, there are a significant number of compelling altruistic and benevolent reasons to pass this bill, and certainly those are all real and true. However, I'd like to give you another point of view that is also very important to school districts, especially right now, and that's how this bill will impact districts financially. Reduced lunches are often a difficult area for school districts to manage. These are often families who are just above the threshold for free lunches and struggling to make ends meet. At times, that means that nutrition programs are often not receiving compensation for those meals. Like any business that produces a product, districts are incurring expenses for a product produced, so not receiving compensation for that product presents a challenge. As an enterprise fund, student nutrition programs are meant to stand alone, meaning that revenue from those programs should cover all operational costs. So not being compensated for those meals presents a host of challenges, from cash flow interruptions to the ability to increase meal quality and offerings to keeping meals affordable for all families. This issue ultimately has an impact on all students and families participating in the district's nutrition program due to the financial impact it has on districts. Also, when families fall behind, it's very difficult for them to catch up. As that debt accumulates, it becomes more and more daunting to even attempt to chip away and becomes what we call bad debt. This creates another layer of financial impact as districts must dedicate significant resources to managing this debt. This includes communication with families, financial reporting, attempts at collection, and working with local agencies to identify alternative sources of funding to replace these missing dollars. Rapid City Area Schools has been significantly challenged by this cycle in recent years. Our yearly bad debt often swelling into the $175,000 to $200,000 range. What we've learned in that time is that this cycle is unsustainable, meaning that a series of difficult choices must be made. Most recently, the district made the very difficult decision to send overdue accounts to collections as a last-ditch effort to sustainably manage the situation. As one might imagine, this was not a popular decision in the community, but one we felt necessary. HB 1082 would guarantee revenue for this section of meals and avoid the double impact that comes from these meals going unpaid and then turning into bad debt. This certainly doesn't solve all the problems, but provides a significant step forward towards a solution. By passing HB 1082, you all have the opportunity not only to serve the students of our state and provide for a basic human need that allows them to maximize their educational experience, but also provide a layer of revenue and financial stability for districts in a very challenging economic environment. On behalf of Rapid City Area Schools, I urge you to pass this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to stand by for any questions.
All right, thank you. I believe we've reached the end of our proponent testimony. With that, we will move into opponent testimony. Opponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Grant Judson with the Bureau of Finance and Management. This morning you have before you House Bill 1082. Currently, the Department of Education administers National School Lunch and School Breakfast program in which 144 public school districts participate. Students from families with incomes between 130% and 185% of the federal poverty level are eligible for reduced price meals. Eligible students are charged 40 cents for lunch and 30 cents for breakfast. These rates are set by the federal government and are the same guidelines used for other federal assistance programs. This bill would require the Department of Education to reimburse schools for the 40 cents for lunch and 30 cents for breakfast. Based on the amount of reduced price meals served in the 2024-2025 school year, this would cost $592,517 in ongoing general funds. This is a federal program, and the cost of meals are already heavily subsidized by the federal government and ultimately us as taxpayers. The state has never participated to pay for more than what is already covered at the federal level. For these reasons, we ask that you oppose this bill. Thank you, and I will stand by for questions.
Thank you. Is there any further opponent testimony? Any more opponent testimony? All right, seeing none, we would offer a rebuttal to one of the prime sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Representative Caden Whitman, District 15. The proposal in the bill you have in front of you impacts approximately 10,000 students across South Dakota. 10,000 kids in every single one of our districts, in every single one of our schools. These are not hypothetical families. These are students and families who have already filled out the paperwork, they have already verified their income, and they have already qualified under the federal guidelines. As you heard from the Bureau of Finance Management, the fiscal note is approximately $600,000 annually. That cost reflects current participation, and as I mentioned earlier, the only way that amount goes up is if the number of families living in poverty in our state also increases. The meals are being served, the expense already exists. Today that cost is absorbed unevenly, and we heard from charities that have willingly stepped forward to help cover that cost. We have heard from child nutrition coordinators in our schools how they are making ends meet on the back end. And I would ask that you please support this bill so we can create a consistent statewide reimbursement process and structure for a known and reoccurring cost that we are trying to figure out every single day in our public school systems. 10,000 students. 8% of all of our public school kids in South Dakota. Again, I would remind you, these students exist in every single one of our districts. I believe that providing predictability for our schools and communities and immediate relief for working families is a measured and responsible decision, and I ask for a due pass recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. We will close the testimony portion of our committee and move into committee questions. Questions from the committee. Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could ask for the sponsor. It's my understanding that there's 2 occasions when students have the opportunity to access these meals, breakfast and lunch. Could you give me a breakdown in terms of what those numbers look like, in terms of, i.e., how many students are being served breakfast as compared to lunch?
I know that right now, where I said we have approximately 10,000 students that would qualify underneath that, I believe those students are participating in both breakfast and lunch, Senator. Apologies, Representative Whitman. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Marty.
For the Prime, thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you explain to me how families are qualified for this? Do they send out paperwork?
Mr. Chair? Yes. So any families that would qualify within this would have to have submitted the paperwork so that we can seek federal reimbursement for the portion that we are able to. We are unfortunately not able to force parents to fill out this paperwork, which was something I learned a few years ago when trying to learn about this particular initiative. And so this bill is viewed as more of a carrot, I would say, to get parents to fill out that paperwork, because again, we can't force them to fill it out, but if we can incentivize them to fill it out and let them know that if they fall within that reduced category, the state will cover that cost. Hopefully we can get more folks turning in that paperwork, but in order to participate in this program, they have to have the paperwork turned in and they have to have their income guideline verified.
follow or just a comment. So it kind of falls back on the parents aren't doing their job?
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, yes. When we see children going hungry in our schools, it's not the child's fault. It's usually the parents who have not stepped up to take care of the paperwork and what they need to do on the back end to take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could follow up. Thank you. Do you have a sense of these kids that are being served? I'm from the western part of the state. We have students that are in family situations extremely mobile. Here 1 week, gone 3 weeks, back in and out, in and out. Do you see that as being a real challenge in terms of those parents actually engaging in the verification process so those kids can get their meals?
Mr. Chair, of course, that initial step of getting them to turn in the paperwork is probably the biggest hurdle. But if they stay within that school system that they submitted the paperwork through, they only have to submit it that one time, and then their child is effectively in the system moving forward. So even if they are not in school for a few weeks and then coming back to school, they will still be able to receive those meals and the benefits of this bill.
Follow if I could. I need to understand, so if they are engaged, enrolled in a school district, and then they leave and go to another school district, they need to re-enroll at that new school district also. So,
Mr. Chair,
it's not uncommon for those students that I'm thinking of move like 3-4 times in 1 year, different districts.
Mr. Chair, for that, I would say they would have to refill out the paperwork when they're in a new school district. And again, unfortunately, because we can't force parents to fill it out, the best we can do is offer an incentive to try and get them to fill that out.
Yeah, maybe I'll just kind of as a follow-up, and anyone can answer. I mean, are there some efforts by schools to just try to get more parents to fill them out, or maybe do some informational processes of what's going on here to...
Mr. Chair, I believe Gay Anderson would be able to answer that.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, I can. The school districts across the state, we work very hard trying to get families to complete their free and reduced applications. They can be filled out any time of the year, anytime the family situation changes. I know within our school district here, and I know this happens with other districts across the state and across the country, that social workers help. We have school counselors that are helping to get people to fill out the applications. In the situations where we have people that do not speak English, we have people who can help them complete the application. We have it in different languages, and it's a very active process. We have people who are willing to go to their homes even in those situations, and I think it's really critical for you to understand that we do work very, very hard to get these people to complete those applications. And if I may say one other thing, if a family does move from district to district, we are able to share that information if the new school district is aware of that and saying, hey, does this family qualify? So within that, we don't have to make them complete that paperwork again.
Okay, thank you, Senator Sauter.
I just have a question for clarification. This covers the breakfast program as well, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, it does.
All right, Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the prime. Give me a income level. You know, it says 130 to 185%. Give me an income level.
Mr. Chair, for a family of 4, 185% is approximately $49,000 a year.
Mr. Chair, so that would be the 185% you said?
Yes.
Okay. This would help those kids on reduced. Okay, let me go back here. So this is 50 cents a day, correct?
Mr. Chair, 70. It's 30 cents for each breakfast and 40 cents for each lunch.
Mr. Chair. So those that are not on reduced or free, what are they paying?
They're paying, Mr. Chair, apologies. They are paying the full price of the meal, which it can vary based on school district, but it's approximately $4.
Any further questions from the committee at this time? Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When students leave on Friday afternoon, they come back on Monday morning. What addresses the issue of whether or not they're going to get any nutrition at all? Is there any consideration on that Friday menu with that perspective in terms of, i.e., fresh fruit, something that those kids will be able to have over that weekend? And they come back in Monday, they're not really on task. They're not thinking about that.
Mr. Chair. You are correct, Senator. Approximately 1 in 5 South Dakota kids are food insecure, which means that between Friday lunch and Monday morning breakfast, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have a lot of charities like Feeding South Dakota that do weekend backpack programs to try and alleviate that concern. And in the future, I would love to come back and bring you a solution to that. Unfortunately, that is not the bill I have in front of you today, but I do agree with you that that is a real concern in our communities.
Maybe this be a question for Coy Sassy or Ms. Sanderson. Again, just kind of a general question on how many students are utilizing the school lunch program. Would you say, like, is there some that might bring their own lunch, leave campus? Like, is there any efforts to utilize the school lunch program as much as you can?
I can jump in with that. For our participation rates within the school district, we serve about 70% of our students in the school district. In Sioux Falls, we have our juniors and seniors that actually have open campus, so that eliminates about 4,000 students right there, but we have a high participation rate. For breakfast, typically, we see about 25 to 30% of our students having breakfast. And out of that reduced rate, it is probably right around the 38%. And for lunch, reduced students are about 71% with us.
All right, thank you. Is there any further questions from the committee? Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Dr. Graves, please.
Mr. Chair, Joe Graves, Secretary of Education.
Good morning. Could you maybe outline for us a little bit about the qualifying process, kind of the specifics of that? We heard sort of some general things about income level, but can you maybe walk us through the steps of that a little bit more in detail?
Mr. Chair? Yes. Basically, typically in a school district, at the the meetings ahead of the school year, open houses, those kinds of things, all these brochures are handed out. In many cases, the students or parents are actually invited to fill out the form right there, even through a computer-generated program, and so that can all happen. And then what happens at that point is the student, if they were eligible the year before, continue to be eligible for a certain number of weeks until the form is evaluated. Once the form is evaluated, then the parent is notified whether they qualify for the current year. I should point out that the form is only one way that a student is qualified. Any student whose parents or whose family is eligible for SNAP benefits or food stamps, any student who's been declared a migrant student, qualifying as a migrant student, or qualifying as a homeless student, are automatically given free access to free lunch and free breakfast as well.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
I don't know which departments collect what data or keep what data, but are there any other departments within the state government or even local governments that that you interface with or that the schools interface with to try to determine if there's anybody that maybe they didn't catch or anything like that?
Mr. Chair, that would occur at the local level. So I know, for example, there is many school districts now have a weekend snack pack program, they call them generally. And at that point, there's a lot of conferring between the district and parents and also the that particular private organization that helps with that process. However, the FERPA rights need to be obeyed as well. So the Family Educational Rights Protection Act at the federal level, so you can't share that information without getting permission as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee?
Go.
Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Dr. Graves. Explain to me the verification on this form that the parents have to fill out. Is it a income tax statement, or how do you know what they're saying is what they're saying?
Mr. Chair, so the form basically has a list of what are the income levels by family size for a free meal or for a reduced price meal. So the parent fills out their income on the form. It's not required to have any kind of verifying information. And again, this only applies if the student hasn't already been able to demonstrate that their family is eligible for SNAP, migrant, or homeless. But if it is an income matter, they provide the form. And then a certain percentage of the applications are reviewed for verification. And at that point, the parent has to provide either some kind of a verification of their income that demonstrates that they met those qualifications. So it's a small percentage of those that are reviewed. The director of the Division of Career, Child and Adult Nutrition Services, Alan Harstead, is here as well. He would probably have a better percentage. He would have a better idea of what that exact percentage is that are verified by school personnel.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Senator Peterson.
Thank you. I have a couple questions, I think maybe for the prime.
Mr. Chair, Representative Kaden Whitman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the first things that was talked about was that part of the problem is some parents don't fill out the paperwork, right? My first question is, do you have any estimate of what percentage that is? How many don't, of maybe the kids who really need it, don't fill out the paperwork?
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, we don't have any way of tracking when people don't turn paperwork in. I wish we did.
Follow up. Any gut feel on that?
Mr. Chair, I think I would have to defer to Gay Anderson, maybe, who's dealing with seeing these kids every single day and working with these families every single day. I can't speak to how many families are not submitting and turning in that paperwork.
We can certainly welcome Ms. Anderson to answer that.
Mr. Chair, basically, we don't have solid numbers on who do not complete an application, but when there is a concern with the family where student accounts are low, a building principal is saying, hey, is there a way we could try and help figure that out? I think the staff within the districts are very knowledgeable about and have concerns and can get that feeling for, hey, maybe have you filled out that application? That term is used out very frequently with people just to make sure that they've been given every opportunity. I'm not sure if that really fully answers the question, but we provide multiple ways ongoing.
Just a follow-up to that.
Go ahead.
So if that's one of our main concerns, and those are some of the children that are not being served, we don't know how many, but there's a segment of them. Will this bill change that? Will this bill help fill that gap somehow, or help those kids whose parents don't fill out the paperwork?
Mr. Chair, so again, I would hope that parents who have not filled this out in the past, if this were to pass, they would see that and it would incentivize them to fill it out. But I would also say that so many of our districts are already covering the cost of those children. So if we're able to alleviate a little bit of that financial burden on them, they will continue, hopefully, to feed those children whose parents have unfortunately failed to turn in that paperwork. But again, I would just go back to the fact that we need some way to incentivize parents to submit this paperwork, and this was the best thing I could come up with.
One more follow-up, Mr. Chair. So we're talking about the threshold between free and reduced, and then I also feel like there's probably a threshold between reduced and full pay, and there's probably families on that bubble as well. How are those families being helped, or are they being helped?
Mr. Chair, in an ideal world, I would love to see reduced lunches be in alignment with our CHIP standards, which is 209% of the federal poverty line, because, like you mentioned, we have so many families that are making just a hair above that reduced category and are still paying the full price. Again, unfortunately, the bill we have in front of us does not support those families, but I would welcome the chance to further expand this in the coming years so we can continue to support those families.
Yeah. I might just give a note that if you Google like a free and reduced lunch income guidelines, actually the South Dakota Department of Education has kind of the income guideline form on there. It is, it's a very good visual, just kind of where some of these incomes fall. Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Families need to recertify every year, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, to my knowledge, yes. I may again defer to Ms. Anderson.
I think I know the answer. It's yes. I mean, yeah.
They do have to reapply, Mr. Chair, they do have to reapply every year. They have a 30-day grace period if they were qualified from the prior year. And again, if they haven't applied and find out in November that they didn't reapply, they can, again, always still reapply at that time. Thank you.
And maybe as a follow-up, if families know their situation changes throughout the year, can they apply when their income level changes?
Definitely, if there's income levels change, if they have a baby, if there's a different situation that happened within the household, they can reapply multiple times, and we look at that.
Any more questions from the committee? Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Students that are mobile in terms of extended family members, grandparents that are not the legal guardians, are they able to enroll or submit requests for free reduced lunches if they don't have the legal documents or are not the natural parents?
Mr. Chair, I would again defer to Gay Anderson, who could answer that, I hope.
Yep, stay on standby, Ms. Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So in those situations, we do have multiple situations where, say, the grandparents are taking care of and raising the children. They can complete the application because if they live in their household, they can go and complete that application. So there's multiple resources there. The interesting thing with the application process, income is compared or looked at for every person who brings money into the household. So any gross income, and even if it's Social Security income, retirement income, that is looked at too. So there's a lot of different factors that go into place. But yes, people who are taking and raising a child, they can complete that application.
Thank you. Further questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, we would move into committee discussion and or action. Senator Voigt.
Mr. Chair, do pass.
Okay, and that be a motion for motion by Senator Voigt, second by Senator Sauter for do pass. Is that a motion to refer to appropriations or just the need? Oh, just
not necessary.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair, make comments. This is really a very difficult situation for kids that have been brought into this world and don't have any control over their lives. And kids get hungry. And we have expectations in terms of student performance, behavior, attendance. And if those stomachs don't have nutrition, it's really a tough issue on Mondays. It's a tough issue for staff. It's really a difficult situation. And we need to do what we can do to see that those kids are taken care of, especially on weekends. I've been in situations that are, as a principal and superintendent, with our native population, it is really, I don't know that the adjective is correct, but I would say ugly. What we expect those kids to be able to do when they walk in and sit down in those seats on Monday morning is not realistic because there's something else that's going on. We need to do whatever we can do to intervene in that, and that's to take care of that nutrition.
Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do support the do pass motion. As a former educator, and there's a bunch of us up here, but I've been in the lunch line with those kids that have had their lunch trays taken away. And I've also watched the faces of the lunchroom workers having to do their job that they've been told they had to do. And I've watched the kids And it's a shaming process, and it's not good. So anything we can do to alleviate that. The other thing I've noticed, and it's anecdotal, but I worked a couple years as an in-school suspension with kids that, for whatever reason, made some choices that made them not be in the regular classroom for a day or two, and oftentimes those correlated with the kids that also weren't able to have lunch. I appreciate the nonprofits out there that have been helping. But this is a gap that we can fill. It's targeted, and it doesn't solve the whole problem, but it definitely helps. And anything we can do to help a kid, I'd say we go for it.
Senator Sauter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just say yes to the previous senator's remarks, and I also want to thank the good senator from Beadle County for his analogy, preparing the soil for a better crop. We have to prepare our children. There's bills every year that come before us to ask for more money for more books or better curriculum or better schools or whatever. This is so basic. We have to start at the very basic if we're going to grow a crop of children that work into being productive adults. And it all starts with nutrition, and it all starts with a full belly. Let's not even consider what's in their desk before 8 o'clock in the morning. They need something in their bellies. And so I appreciate the sponsor for bringing this on behalf of all the children across South Dakota. And I very overwhelmingly vote for this.
Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I have visited lunchrooms when we're talking about the cost and whatnot, the amount of food that our schools waste. I would like to see our schools tighten up what they give these kids. I've seen those kids, they'll have 10 carrots and 6 celery sticks and a soy burger. Well, they eat 1 carrot and what have you, and a couple of bites out of their soy burger. We have the food. We just need to tighten up what the schools are giving these kids. It's just a comment, but it bothers me a lot, the amount of food that these schools waste in their school lunch programs.
Okay. Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment and a follow-up to a comment from the good senator across the way. I have read stories in our local newspaper about shaming and, food shaming and lunchroom shaming and that kind of thing. And I thought that had been addressed and then that's no longer happening. And I sure hope that's the case, because if that's not the case, I think what should break loose on that. It's not those kids' fault, and there's no reason for that, to take their lunch tray and dump it in the garbage right there. That's just ridiculous. And so I'm glad to hear that that's not happening. And if there is any school across the state that's doing that, we will find you. I will not tolerate that. Just had to express that.
Senator Nelson.
Yeah, yesterday I even sent out emails saying I'm going to support. I'm going to support this and stuff. And then I'm sitting here and thinking, and some of the things that came out. I'm going to resist this, and I think the thing why is because it's that group of families that are at that $50,000 mark. They jump. They don't qualify. And then they're jumped to that $4 mark, and there's no help for them. And that's probably where the most need would probably be, because they don't qualify. And that's a huge jump. You go from 70 cents to $4 or whatever that may be. That's a huge jump. Another concern I have is the more paperwork. More paperwork means there will be more people getting on this program, more cost to our state. One thing running the school I did, we always wanted to make sure we had families had a stake in the game. And, even though families couldn't pay full tuition, we wanted them to pay some. And I think this is the case here, is that we want families to have a stake in what they are providing for their child's, nutrition, education during the school day. And I think that's important to give them a sense of accomplishment, in a sense that, yeah, I am providing for my family. But here's the biggest thing. Last night, I was reminded by somebody who sent me a text, and I hadn't forgotten about this. I'm glad they reminded me. Anonymous donor pays for local school lunches and inspires others to give back. Oldham Ramona Rutland, $45,000 donor. Anonymous pays for all the school lunches for that school. And what I would like to say to, the sponsor of this bill, what you told us this morning, go out there and find those people who would be willing to do the same thing. Because I know they're out there. I just sitting here thinking about it, even in my community, looking at the numbers that you provided, there's people that could write a check like that and it wouldn't even be a blimp on the radar of their income. But the thing about it is, when you have the government doing it, you take away that sense of helping that donors get from helping others. And that's the thing that's lost here, is the fact that if we do this donor who's providing the $45,000, and again, this is for everybody, not just those with low and reduced, but you're taking away that option for people to donate. And so I just would encourage those who have a passion for kids to be fed during the school day and on weekends or whatever it is, get out there and find those stakeholders in your community who have the resources to provide the funding to do this. And along with it, give them the sense of helping and that feeling of just fulfillment and of being able to help those that are in need. So, again, I'm going to resist this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the committee? I'll just throw in there that even with my day job nowadays, I do get to eat a lot of school lunch when we're doing school audits, and I mean, really, we have really a good lunch program in our schools. I mean, these are great meals. So anything I think we can do to encourage more students to utilize that, and I think passing this bill will do that. If more families can get those meals paid for, that would increase the number of kids using those meals. There's a fixed cost with our school lunch program. Maybe to address a couple of the waste issues, I think there's some maybe federal regulations where the lunch people have to give students a certain amount of something. So, maybe they'll take something they don't like, but they'll fill up on the salad bar. And so it might look like they're wasting food, but some of those are some federal regulations you probably can't do too much about there. And again, I know Ms. Anderson and Sassy alluded to that many of our school lunch programs, they're not, coming out ahead. They have to use general funds. So if we can help alleviate that a little bit, that'll free up more general funds for other things like teacher pay and all that. So not only is this the right thing to do, in the end, this is also the fiscally responsible thing to do. So I do strongly urge a do pass motion, and I'll be supporting that. Thank you. With that, the secretary will call the roll.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Peterson.
Just a friendly point of order. I know you had asked about this before, and I'm wondering about the process. I noticed in the House it went to education and then went to appropriations and then went to the floor. Is that the process we've been asked to follow, or is that just sort of how the House chose to do it? Do we need to follow that process at all?
I think it's up to each chamber how they do that. The motion was made for due pass to the floor, and I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll support the motion, but there was one on there. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. We are ready for the roll call. Thank you.
Senators Marty?
Aye.
Nelson?
No.
Peterson?
No.
Sauter?
Yes.
Smith?
Yep.
Voigt?
Yes.
Shanefish?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, 5 yea, 2 nay.
Motion carries. Up next on our agenda, we'll give a few seconds here to be at ease while the crowd disperses. All right. All right, up next on our agenda, we have House Bill 1017, an act to permit the board of a school district to require that certain students receive instruction in alternative settings. Proponent testimony. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
Chairman Chainfish, members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity to testify on behalf of House Bill 1017. My name is Joe Gray, Secretary of Education for the state of South Dakota. House Bill 1017 would add a badly needed lever in the toolbox of school administrators and school boards in our state. Specifically, it would give them the authority to place extremely violent, disruptive children outside of the physical school setting into their home or elsewhere in other settings with alternative means of instruction, including virtual offerings. So why is such a tool necessary? It's necessary because public schools in America, including in South Dakota, have seen dramatic increases in student misbehavior involving extreme examples of violence and disruption. The situations have become not only more frequent, but also more explosive. These are not one-offs, and they are not playground dust-ups or a little boy throwing a rock at the little girl he likes. Over the last several years, I've been speaking to paraeducators, teachers, school administrators, and other school employees about this situation. They describe students injuring teachers and other adults to the point of requiring medical attention. Injuries like concussions, black eyes, facial abrasions, tooth loss, severe bites, assaults with classroom furniture, desks, and other objects thrown through windows, destroyed classrooms, and smashed computers. And injuries, additionally, not quite so obvious, but just as devastating, trauma and fear. Classmates of the offender afraid to return to school. Lessons and learning disrupted. One child preventing the education of the other children in their classroom. I want to share with you a communication that I've received, and I've received any number of these, but from one elementary school teacher. Unless you're in the trenches each and every day, it's hard to get people to realize and understand how bad this is. It is continually spiraling out of control. What teachers have to put up with on a daily basis is ruining education. Principals and teachers can't do their jobs because all of our energy is often spent dealing with certain students with behavior issues. It is often not fair or safe for the majority of the kids we are trying to teach, and it is so unfair that we have to cater to one or two behavior kids when the rest of the class suffers. Teachers and administrators are getting burnt out, and this is the main reason why when we get sworn at, hit, kicked, threatened, watch rooms get destroyed, etc. There are zero consequences or protection for us and the other students in the room. Now, the finisher to this communication is what really hits home for me. If I were a teacher just starting out, there is no way I would stay in the profession if I knew this is what I will be dealing with until retirement. Okay, so what are the results of such incidents? There are many, of course. They begin with the sheer expense of repairing and treating the damage, material, physical, and emotional. They go on to include parents removing their children from the school setting. And it is not just the children and parents. It is also the people who work in schools, paraeducators, teachers, even administrators. Teachers who, because they felt the vocation to teach children, are willing to take a bit less in perceived compensation than they think would be available to them in other jobs. Suddenly, they're rethinking their position. Is teaching worth putting your physical well-being in jeopardy? What about your mental health? As the dread of facing such for the next several decades begins to sink in, they begin rethinking their career path, and they leave the field. And these are people typically new to the profession, the young stalwarts who should mature as educators over the years and provide decades of instruction to students and service to schools. But these situations frequently become career enders. They convince otherwise committed, often young educators at school a place they loved when they were growing up is now no longer a safe place to be. So when does the reality of that really hit home for children, parents, and especially teachers? It does so when the child who injured classmates, shattered windows, destroyed classrooms, returns the very next day as if nothing had happened. When it comes to student behavior, school principals used to live by a simple rule. Be sure that the child whose teacher brought them to the office didn't beat the teacher back to the classroom. In other words, make sure that the teacher and the classmates could tell that the offender was receiving just consequences as evidenced by their absence. When such students return immediately to the classroom, it sends a clear message. There are no consequences. Do what you want. This bill would assist principals in rejecting that message by allowing them time at home or some other agreed-upon location under virtual or alternative instruction, while in some cases a permanent alternative setting is arranged for. Teachers would know this kind of behavior has consequences. Teachers would know it, the other children and their parents would know it, and the misbehaving child would know it. I do not suggest that this bit of extra reinforced authority given to school authorities would solve the entire problem. It won't. But it will give principals and superintendents one additional means of making it immediately clear that schools are a place of education and enlightenment where physical abuse, attacks, and wanton destruction of property will not be tolerated. It would tell well-behaved children and their parents that there are consequences for misbehavior and that the people who oversee their schools are taking steps to protect them and all students. And it will reassure teachers that their classrooms can be places of learning and joyful engagement, free of threat and injury, so they can stick with their chosen career, the vocation they love. Now, in case you're unsure about people leaving the profession these days over this issue, let's take a look at the numbers. I gave you this handout. The DOE collects data on teachers leaving their districts at the end of each year. All teachers. If you're moving, we collect that data, and in that data, the districts report to us how many are leaving and why they are leaving. There's a specific list of items they can pick. Notice that as recently as 2020, less than 10% of teachers left to find jobs in other professions. Since then, that percentage has jumped to 17 to 19%, more than double since 2015. School districts and the DOE are working hard to widen the pipeline of people entering the profession through apprenticeships, certification flexibilities, marketing, minimum teacher salary requirements, compensation increase requirements, student teacher permits and payments, and educator rising groups. But putting more into this end of the pipeline isn't going to fix the problem if the pipe keeps leaking at these unsustainable rates on the other end. And you needn't take my word for it. As recently as February 17th, the Hechinger Report, an educational think tank, released a report on the disruptive students and the toll they are taking on schools, employees, and other students. Education Week, the respected education journal, has reported on the astonishing increase in school violence and disruption since the pandemic. And the National Education Association, the NEA, has described it as a crisis, and one that, after compensation, is the most significant cause of teachers leaving the profession. A 2024 survey by the Pew Research Center found that 68% of teachers now report having faced verbal abuse by a student, and 40% report having faced physical violence by a student. Research sponsored by the National Institute of Justice, also in 2024, found that only 17% of teachers reported no victimization of any kind. Meanwhile, 47% of teachers in that survey reported at least one kind of physical distress: headaches, trouble sleeping, fatigue after victimization, and 90% reported at least one type of emotional distress after they had been victimized, including anger, anxiety, sadness, or feeling unsafe. According to the Education Commission of the States, using data from Institute of the Education Sciences report, Crime, Violence, Discipline, and Safety in U.S. Public Schools, rates of serious violence incidents in U.S. public schools have nearly doubled in the just 6-year duration between 2016 and 2022. Thus, it is no surprise that teachers are losing hope, parents are losing faith, and schools are losing students. And that's why I bring this bill before you today and ask that you give it your every favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Committee. State Representative Al Northrup representing Aberdeen and Brown County. I'm going to get right to the point. What does the bill do? Well, looking at the bill, it talks about the school board has authority to remove a child and provide instruction in an alternate location under these conditions, aggressive or violent behavior that disrupts the school or affects the health or safety factor of the school. So we're talking aggressive and violent behavior that disrupts the school and affects the health and safety. That's a pretty serious situation. There's another bill. It's a companion bill, Mr. Chairman, if I could have latitude to connect the two bills. This is a policy bill. The policy that you're going to, I would advocate you vote for says the violent child can be moved out of the classroom and given instruction elsewhere. If you think about the current situation, we got 25 kids in a classroom. One kid is violent and aggressive, and the teacher is probably not going to come back next year. Makes sense not to come back the next year. And the other 24 kids aren't learning to the capacity that they should be learning to. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. And I would encourage this body to vote for that policy. Later today, you're going to see the companion bill on the Senate floor. Sioux Falls and Rapid City already have capacity to take that child elsewhere. Northeast South Dakota has got a bill this afternoon that says we too in the region need a facility so that we can do what this policy says. Without that facility, the policy is empty. So would encourage a yes vote now and a yes vote later today on the Senate floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Representative.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Education Committee. My name is Scott Odenbach, State Representative from District 31. I live in Spearfish, represent Lawrence County. I'm also the Majority Leader in the House. I just wanted to come here today, I guess, in support of this smart, simple, straightforward bill. Asked for your passage this morning. You know, when I also come as a former school board member before I got in the legislature, and I tell people often that I got in the legislature because it was easier than being on the school board. And this was a big issue when you listen to administrators and teachers, and the idea that one disruptive child can disrupt the learning of the other 24 or whatever just seems like a really bad and dumb result. And you know, there was an attempt when this bill started to do all kinds of amendments and things to it that, taken together, in my opinion, would have just made it more difficult, frankly, to do the intent of the bill. And so we talk a lot when we have issues regarding education about local control and about respecting local school boards and about respecting our teachers and letting them teach and control their classroom. And by having the bill with the form that it's in now, that does that. And I think it should be passed. As has been said, Dr. Graves' tour de force testimony on this issue this morning is kind of tough to follow. There's not much left to be said, but you know, when they've polled teachers, it's the number one issue now, even before pay, and then maybe third would be devices in the classroom. All issues we're wrestling with here just this year. So this is a good bill. It's a smart bill. It cuts right to the heart of the number one issue, and I'd ask you to pass it. Thanks a lot.
Yep, thank you, Representative. Further proponent testimony.
My name is Florence Thompson Fuller. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education. I'm also a registered lobbyist for them and also a lobbyist for South Dakota Citizens for Liberty. I was a school psychologist, registered school psychologist for 40 years and spent 40 years in the schools. So I've seen a lot of this go by. And as you all know, we didn't have these problems years ago. This has been an increasing problem. They say that madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I think it's pretty obvious that we are not getting good results, so we shouldn't be doing the same things. We need to be taking another course, and I applaud Dr. Graves for bringing this forward. Educators are never trained in corrective thinking, which is what is involved in the criminal justice process. We are confusing emotional disturbance with correct criminal thinking. These kids, some of them are getting into criminal thinking. They are willfully deciding to misbehave. They are not maladjusted. They're perfectly adjusted to their own thought process. they need a different approach, and it needs to have consequences. And I applaud Dr. Graves and the sponsor for bringing this forward so that there will be consequences and these kids will be removed from the classroom. They need to be involved in the justice system. You have liaisons in your schools, most of you. You all have a county sheriff. If they are committing criminal acts in the schools, they need to be referred in that direction. We've always had special ed for criminal behavior. It's called the justice system. So it needs to be enforced. I know that our laws were weakened in the juvenile corrections area. And so we don't have a full response that we should have, but there is still help
Do you have a
available
badge
there.
for you're representing parents?
Yeah,
or-
I'm sorry. I forgot my badges today, so I'll have to testify as myself, I guess. I just didn't have time to go back and get them. Okay, thank you very much. So anyway, everyone seems to agree, all of these testifiers seem to agree that it is a worsening problem. So let's do something different. Let's do what this bill suggests. Let's pass it.
All right, thank you. Other proponent testimony.
Mr. Chair and the esteemed Senate Education Committee, my name is Carl Perry. I'm a senator from District 3, which is in Brown County in northeastern South Dakota. And basically this act to take the board of a school district to require the certain students receive instruction in alternative settings is the right thing to do. And so in simple terms, this is my Me Too, and my request is do pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jennifer Stalling. I'm here on behalf of Children's Home Society, and I want to lend a Me Too to the bill in the same way that Representative Northrup did, and also thank Secretary Graves and I think the vast majority of the people who are in the room here today. When this bill was first brought up in the House and the conversation was starting to take place about alternative settings for children, Children's Home Society weighed in on that measure because we wanted to be sure that people understood that in our current capacity, we wouldn't be able to be taking a whole number of children who would need to be placed in a different school setting. And I understand the bill is about a spectrum of options for school districts, but at the end of the day, there are children who need to be placed in a different day school. And that's really what Children's Home Society offers right now in our Loving School and our Owen School, which are located in Rapid City and Sioux Falls. But our capacity to take an influx of children, as you've heard the need laid out by the Secretary, is certainly challenged right now. And we very much appreciate that as part of the discussions of this issue, we came also to the companion bill that Representative Northrup discussed with you, and that's some funding to stand up a day school in Aberdeen, a community that can serve a wide range of counties up in northeast South Dakota, and a community that's ready to partner with Children's Home Society and our donors and philanthropy to make sure that we can meet that need up in northeast South Dakota. I appreciate again that the educators in the room and Secretary Graves and the governor's office convened folks for a work group. We did have conversations about an amendment on this bill that was discussed on the House side. It would, provide some definition of the spectrum of where kids would be and what services they would need, from 1 day out of school to 5 days out of school to whether they were being placed in a day school. And ultimately, I think the bill's reverted back to what Representative Odenbach said, this simpler, cleaner version of what's before you today. I'll let better policy experts weigh in on that, but I think the important thing is that if you're going to pass a policy that says that there's going to be a greater opportunity for more children to be placed outside of the school and need more services in a day school setting, then we very much appreciate you also recognizing that House Bill 1262, which is really a companion piece to this, makes sure that those services are available. So we appreciate the policy discussion here. We appreciate the discussion that the folks in the room had about needing those companion bills, and we would ask you to move them both forward.
Okay, thank you. Any further proponent testimony? Is there any more proponent testimony? Not online? All right, that we'll move into opponent testimony. Is there any opponent testimony? Yep. All right, seeing no. Good
afternoon, Mr. Chair, or good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Opponent testimony, I'm sorry, I might have missed calling for opponent testimony.
This is opponent testimony.
Very narrow, limited opponent testimony on this. My name is Cole Euchre. I'm with Disability Rights South Dakota. One thing about children with disabilities, they are oftentimes born with disabilities, but not born with coverage for under IDEA. And we recognize that this bill does exempt students who receive those protections under special education rules. Our concern would be that if this avenue is available to schools to be able to exclude children from the educational setting or find an alternative setting, that they may result in a chilling effect of the school's efforts to conduct child find coverage for special education, and see this as an opportunity to remove children who have behaviors related to their disability, as opposed to go through the hard work of finding eligibility and coverage for special education services. So very narrow concern about that, but I thought I'd bring that up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more opponent testimony? Any more opponent testimony? Okay, seeing none, we'll offer the prime sponsor rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Joe Graves, Secretary of Education. The issue of the special education, that was from the very beginning, very specific. Those students are not to be considered under this provision. So if a student has an issue, whatever involves with behavior issue, there are very clear steps. They include a manifestation hearing, an IEP hearing, all those kinds of things. All those exist, and they're very strong protections. The only one thing I would say about this is, as well, if any educator doesn't feel like this process works for them, it is optional. School districts do not need to do this. This is just an additional tool that they can use should they find it to be preferable. Thank you, and I will stand by for questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? Senator Sauter.
I think this is for Dr. Graves or whoever can answer it. That's fine. Can you tell me how you gave some good facts across the country? How many offending children do we have in South Dakota? How many kids are we talking about in South Dakota that are offenders or bad actors or whatever you want to call them?
Mr. Chair, we really don't have a great grasp. We don't have a number that we can offer you, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, students have strong privacy rights under FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so when these kinds of things occur, even though lots of people have seen it, school administrators don't talk about it. Secondly, we have a report annually through the state accountability system in terms of various disciplinary measures and those kinds of things that occur. Problem with that is the definitions are so vague that they don't give us good data either. So unfortunately, we don't have good data. What we do have is reports from across the country and reports from many educators in South Dakota that the level of this has increased dramatically.
Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Graves, do you have a sense of the good senator from the Aberdeen area indicated that there's a possibility of, i.e., a regional facility?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the responsibility in terms of the financial conduct of that facility? Who's going to pay for that facility? Students enrolled, is it from the receiving district, the facility itself? What latitude or what information do you have on that?
Mr. Chair, A couple things. First of all, it is absolutely true that there are a lack of placement facilities in that area, and there are a lack of placement facilities elsewhere in the state as well. So while we're not endorsing that project or any other project in terms of taking a position on it, we obviously see that it makes sense. Secondly, I'm frankly very confident, as the DOE is confident about this proposal because of the people involved in it. Dr. Becky Guffin is an exceptional superintendent, and like all superintendents, she is always concerned about the funding and how that's going to occur. The fact that she has brought this to the table along with others gives me great confidence that they've got a way to figure out how to do this. The other thing is when you have a student like this and you've got to find a different placement for them, if you don't have a placement center, it doesn't remove the obligation. You still have to figure out where to send them. Now it becomes, am I sending them to Iowa? Am I sending them to Sioux Falls? I'll have the extra transportation costs, the residency costs, all those kinds of things. So even if this is expensive, as all these kinds of placement centers are, it's going to be much less expensive than if we were trying to do some far distant.
Yeah, just kind of as a follow-up, I mean, any students this might apply to, they will have to be educated somewhere. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is a placement, not a discipline.
Senator Peterson or Nelson, whichever one of you wants to go first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for Dr. Graves. When we say alternative setting, what's the scope are we talking about? From this alternative setting here to this, what are we talking about?
Mr. Chair, the scope is intentionally broad because of the different aspects of the different realities we find in South Dakota. So we have some areas that are extremely rural who don't have any placement centers at all. We have a place like Sioux Falls that has many placement centers, although even there, they're finding difficulty in finding the right spots. This is purposely broad. It goes anywhere from going home and being provided a virtual instruction to being placed in a psychiatric treatment center. Now those kinds of things have to have all kinds of other qualifiers, but in terms of what can happen. So it could be home, it could be a different classroom in the same building, it could be in a district where it's in a different facility in the same district, or it could be an external placement area.
I follow here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my first teaching job, I student taught in the fall, and so then I was free in the spring before I, started getting jobs. My first job as a teacher was one-on-one with a student who was very disruptive in the classroom. One-on-one, I had my classroom with him. Are schools still doing that? Are they still providing those students like this who are disruptive a place within the school? Is that still being done, or is due to IEP, special behavior, are they remaining in the classroom?
Mr. Chair, yes, it's absolutely still being done, and it can be anywhere from a paraeducator accompanying the student throughout the day. It can be a separate placement. It can be an alternative education center. It can be an alternative high school or middle school or even elementary.
Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along those same lines, as I look at the bill title, it says permit the board of a school district to require that certain students receive instruction in alternative settings. And I understand that alternative settings means alternative settings, but in some of the narrative, alternative instruction, the words alternative instruction were used. And in South Dakota, we refer to basically what we call homeschooling as alternative instruction. And so I just want to make sure and be very clear that this is not incenting school districts to hand a parent a notification form that says, sign your child up for alternative instruction, that this is, as you have said, a placement. Just want to be really clear about that.
Mr. Chair, yes, absolute agreement. This is not an opportunity to say, here, fill out the homeschool form, or we'll fill it out for you. This is not that. An alternative instruction is a completely different program, has nothing to do with this.
Thank you.
Senator Voigt.
If I could follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Dr. Graves, as is indicated, students placed in this alternative setting, what's the vehicle or the process for that student arriving there? Is that made by the teacher, made by the building principal, by the superintendent, by the board? Who makes the decision that that student is going to be placed in that alternative setting?
Mr. Chair, the ultimate decision maker would be the principal. However, if the placement is not to the parent's desire, they're not required to go into that placement center, but they wouldn't have the option to go back into the regular setting either. So then it would become a process where you talk about different options and go through it. And principals are very familiar with that kind of a process.
If I could follow. So the process would be similar to placement IDEA. Similar process.
Mr. Chair, the difference would be, first of all, when you get into the IDEA process, there's a ton of case law, there's a kind of rules and statutes on how that works and parental rights and everything else. This would not have all of that. So the process, I could say, would be analogous in terms of a principal saying, well, this isn't going to work anymore. Here's an option we can do as an alternative setting. And then the parent could engage in that process, of course. But it certainly wouldn't involve manifestation hearings necessarily. It wouldn't all involve those other things. However, and we've made this point before, any principal with their SALT, after having a situation like this occur, is also going to be making some kind of a behavioral referral to say, how do we better meet this kid's needs?
Thank you. Dr. Gray, so what you're saying, engaging the parents in this final decision, there would be specifics in terms of the interventions that had been attempted and were not successful.
Mr. Chair, I would certainly think so. I would certainly think the principal say, okay, here's the things we've tried, they're not working, here's what we need to do now. And one of the differences, I should have maybe suggested this earlier, is in terms of alternative placement, special education takes a significant amount of time with staffings and everything else. This would be a more immediate decision.
I just got a clarification question. I'm reading through the bill. It says the school board may assign a student for alternative instruction. You mentioned it's the principal. I just want some clarification there.
Yes, thank you. And basically what happened is the board would be designating or delegating that authority to one of their administrators or more than one of their administrators.
Any further questions from the committee? Okay, that will close off the discussion portion, or we will move into discussion and/or action.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Peterson.
I move do pass.
Second.
Motion by Senator Peterson for do pass, seconded by Senator Nelson. Comments on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think this is necessary in any number of ways. I think it's necessary for the student with behavior issues. I think we need to intervene, the schools need to intervene with that student and that family to provide help that's needed there. I think it's very necessary for the teacher. The teacher needs to be able to teach and be able to do that in a safe environment, and that's also true for the other students. They need to be able to learn without that disruption. So I think this helps address that on all those levels. So for that reason, I would ask you to support the motion.
Yeah, thank you. Senator Nelson.
Yeah, when I talk to teachers, this is the issue that they're talking about, student behavior. And again, it's not just like Dr. Graves had said, it's just not pulling the little girl's hair in front of them. It is disruption to the classroom to the point that the teacher has to get all the other kids out of the classroom while that child is having, plain and simple, having, disrupting the classroom or whatever. And like Dr. Graves did say, you have 25 students. One is disrupting. What about the other 24? And that's the concern here. And then also too, just the teachers. It breaks my heart. I think about my first years of teaching, and how wonderful they were. I had great staff. I had great students. At the time, we thought they were naughty. No, they were good kids. And it really saddens me. I've had a contact here this fall with 2 new teachers. And what they're telling me, and especially the one being only a second year of teaching, and she was thinking about quitting, just saddens me to think that that's what she is going through as a teacher, as a new teacher, just starting out. And so if this bill will alleviate some of those concerns, those issues in the classroom and for those teachers, I hope it does. I really do. And again, it gives the latitude for the board and the administrators, the latitude to decide what is best for that child and the placement that is best for that child. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Smith, did you?
Yeah, thank you. And I thank them for bringing this bill forward. Personal story, I guess, it was about a year ago. my wife intervened in the hallways of her middle school and was actually thrown to the ground by a boy, physically assaulted. She's a really good teacher. She is really good at behavior management. She's taught courses on classroom discipline and how to run a classroom. And when you look at these charts here of teachers leaving the profession, it's about right there where my wife would come home and say, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it saddens me to have really, really good teachers doing that. And I've known multiple career teachers that are most excellent at what they do, leaving the profession because of issues like these. And so anything we can do to try to help, I think this will not solve the problem, but it's been mentioned it's a tool in the toolbox for some. So I do think we need to continue looking at behaviors overall and what we can do to help youth that are definitely in crisis in some way.
Thank you, Senator Sauter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate this, the efforts and thought behind this bill from the very beginning, and I'm glad that groups got together to try to fix it and make it more pliable. I still have issues with it. If we're going to recount personal stories, I was a teacher that was slapped by a student in one of my first years of teaching. The young lady did not appreciate my comment or my direction to her, and so to say that this hasn't been happening until recently is not quite true. I think we can go back in the history of education, and I can remember as an elementary student with a disruptive young man in my class who did not appreciate the teacher either. But anyhow, I'm just having a difficult time accepting this. I don't think it really gives any added tools. We talk about tools in the toolbox. I don't think this is a very effective tool in the form that it is, and I think we've we're providing a mandate without funding, and I just can't push this forward with those two issues in front of me. I don't believe our schools are going to hell in a handbasket like some would like us to believe. Do we need help? Yeah, we do, but I don't think this. And I want to protect the children that are in the classroom, those 24 kids, when the 25th one is having issues. And I want to protect that teacher as well, but I don't think this bill will fix that.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Peterson.
Thank you. Related to an unfunded mandate, I think we heard from some of the proponents that there is a companion bill along with this that will be on the Senate floor that does provide funding for this. So I don't think it's an unfunded mandate unless for some reason we pass the policy bill and then don't pass the appropriation. But I do think the intent is to fund this.
Okay, thank you. Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just asked the committee for your tolerance. When I was a student teacher decades back in the 60s, it's been going on. Lunchtime, I'm standing in the office, and a young man comes down that's been referred. Assistant principal comes out and starts to have a conversation. And before I can take 2 deep breaths, that young man has that assistant principal on his back. Just smacked him right in the face. And so this is kind of a situation that's been continuing and been escalating. And we never saw that young man again. But it's escalating. There are some things that are being done right now in other education entities that seem to work. And I've had daughters that have had opportunities to work in that setting, and that's in a military base. If you have a student that's not conducting themselves in a responsible manner in the classroom and interventions haven't worked in that building, the next step is to engage those parents on a serious level. That's contact the base commander, find out who son or daughter that is, and that commander has a conversation with that parent about that behavior and that conduct and consequences if it happens again. What we're talking about here is professional staff, superintendents, principals, teachers,
What we haven't talked about is parents. Somehow, parents need to be engaged. Shipping them off to an alternative setting may not work very well and may wash the parents of responsibility. And I have some thoughts about that and how to engage those parents. Kids generally do not like to be embarrassed in front of their peers by their parents becoming engaged, especially in elementary settings, middle school settings. As a principal, one of the policies that we had in my building was when it didn't work in school, suspension, timeout didn't work, we engaged the parent. When got the parent, we brought them in, said for 3 days, you'll be with your son or your daughter everywhere they go. That peer pressure worked pretty good. It worked pretty good. We have got to engage the parents. The other thing is there needs to be policies here and procedures in terms of how that student's going to end up in that entity and what happens if it doesn't work there.
Thank you,
Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Peterson.
Thank you. Based on what I heard from Dr. Graves' testimony, my understanding was that the parents will be engaged and that this is a choice, not a mandate. But if they don't like the suggestions that are given, they'll have to work together to find some other options. And I didn't get the sense that they would be just shipped, to the East Coast or something like that, but that they would work together with the families to figure this out. So just clarifying that, I think, for the record, based on my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Further comments from the committee? More comments from the committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll have the secretary call the roll.
Senators Marty?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye.
Sauter?
No.
Smith?
Aye.
Voigt?
Aye.
Shanefish?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 6 yay, 1 nay.
Motion carries. That we have reached the end of our agenda for the day. We'll have probably just one more meeting on Thursday. We'll get the bill scheduled and see what we can do there. And otherwise, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Senator Marty. Motion by Senator Marty, seconded by Senator Voigt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. I think I'm still the only one that said aye, but those opposed, nay. All right, we did it. We are adjourned.
SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. From early learners to lifelong students, SDPB inspires curiosity through trusted educational programs and resources for every stage of life. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB celebrates South Dakota's student athletes with live coverage of SDHSAA state championships, sharing the excitement of hometown heroes. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. From choir to debate to theater, SDPB shines a spotlight on South Dakota's talented students through SDHSAA All-State Fine Arts programming. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. Every day, SDPB connects South Dakotans with stories that inform, inspire, and bring us together. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB is your home for fact-based journalism, connecting South Dakotans with news they can trust and stories that matter. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. from children's programs to in-depth documentaries. SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB brings South Dakotans together, telling the stories that unite small towns, big ideas, and the people who make our state shine. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
Okay, we're going to call the Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee to order. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 10 o'clock. And welcome to everybody that's here today and everybody out of town. And welcome to everybody that's listening online and all throughout the world. Reminders, please have your cell phone on silent or on vibrate so that we don't have any interruptions. When that does happen, especially from a member of the committee, we get breakfast pizza, which happened a few weeks ago and from Senator Jensen, and he's paying his penalty right now. Okay, we'll get to the rest of it here in a little bit. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Senators
Davis, excused. Duhamel.
Here.
Marty.
Here.
Voigt.
Here.
Whip.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Pischke.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We do have a quorum. A few housekeeping items here to take care of. Reminder, if you're planning on testifying, there's an iPad here in the back, or you can sign up to testify from your electronic device on your phone, but make sure you do that so we have your name and contact information and whatnot. Lobbyists, if you're planning on testifying, make sure that your badge is clearly displayed. Reminder to testifiers, if you have any handouts, please utilize the pages to get those handed out to the committee. And with that, we will introduce our pages here today. If you would please come forward, tell us your name, where you're from, your plans after high school, and then if you have properly prepared, tell us a ag-related dad joke.
Hi, I'm Layla Williams. I'm a senior at Hill City High School. I plan to attend Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, and then law school. And a joke. How does a farmer get a girl?
How's that?
A tractor.
Nice. I need to get myself a tractor.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Ronning. I'm also from Hill City, and I'm a senior this year. I plan on going to South Dakota School of Mines for industrial engineering. And my dad joke, how does a scarecrow get an award?
How's that?
It was outstanding in his field.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your service to the legislature. It seems like District 30 is very well represented with the pages this term, so I know you guys are probably 3 at least here. Okay, with that, is there any personal privileges? Anybody like to introduce anybody? Okay, seeing nobody there. And then just a reminder that all testimony and questions will be addressed through the chair, so we keep the flow. Okay, and with that, we'll get busy with our agenda today. The first thing we have up in our agenda is the executive appointment of Kevin Nyberg, Lincoln County, Sioux Falls, to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Commission. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Well, we have to have a motion to approve the minutes of our prior meeting. Would anybody like to make a motion for that?
Second.
We have a motion from Senator Duhamel, second from Senator Jensen to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes are so approved. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for keeping me on track. Okay, and now we'll go on to the executive appointment of Kevin Nyberg. We'll hear proponent testimony on this executive appointment of Kevin Nyberg. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Scott Simpson, Deputy Secretary, South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. Little unorthodox, Mr. Chair, but would you mind if I had a personal privilege?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you. Before we begin here, I want to take a moment to recognize someone very important to us. We have heavy hearts as Commissioner Travis Beese passed away earlier this month. Many of you know Commissioner Beese, and I believe his family may also be listening as well. Commissioner Beese was a true rancher, and he cared incredibly deeply about South Dakota outdoors. In addition to being a rancher, he was a public servant. He served 3 terms as a Custer County Commissioner in addition to his time on the GFP Commission. Travis was a father, brother, and son, and a true friend to all things outdoors. He's one of the people that made South Dakota a special place, and we share our condolences with his family, and we're going to greatly miss him on the commission. So,
thank you for that, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for latitude. Moving on to the appointment or the nomination for appointment, we are here today for the appointment of Kevin Nyberg of Sioux Falls to the GFP Commission. Mr. Nyberg would fill the term for Jim White, who has resigned his position on the commission due to personal reasons. While we are sad to see Commissioner White go and no longer serve on the commission, we wish him and his family the best and are confident Mr. Nyberg will fill the gap that his resignation leaves. You may recognize Mr. Nyberg's name, particularly if you frequent Ace Hardware, and he is the CEO of Nyberg's Ace Corporation in Sioux Falls and Watertown. Mr. Nyberg has extensive knowledge in business, having learned from his father and holding the bachelor's degree in political science and business administration from Augustana University in Sioux Falls. Serving on boards and commissions is something Mr. Nyberg is very familiar with. He is a board member of the South Dakota Retailers Association, Augustana University Board of Trustees, and has served 11 years on the South Dakota Parks and Wildlife Foundation, a nonprofit that supports GFP initiatives. His time on the Parks and Wildlife Foundation shows his focus in enhancing outdoor opportunities for future generations, and he is also dedicated to conservation efforts. He holds patron member status with Pheasants Forever and a lifetime member of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Mr. Nyberg has a passion for the outdoors, and particularly with his Labrador Retrievers and his friends on their property in White Lake. His family also maintains a cabin near Custer in the Black Hills. For all of these reasons, I'm excited to support Kevin Nyberg's appointment to the GFP Commission. Now stand by for any questions.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony on this executive appointment.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Members of the committee, Nathan Sanderson. I'm the Executive Director of the South Dakota Retailers Association. I've been around state government for quite a few years, 18 years. When I worked in the governor's office, I worked very closely with Game Fish and Parks and got to know all the fundamental dynamics of the Game Fish and Parks Commission. I don't say this lightly. Kevin Nyberg is going to be an excellent member of the Game Fish and Parks Commission. When you serve on that commission, you have this constant push and pull between landowner rights, between sportsmen's rights. You have to navigate all of the different species that we have, and very, very passionate individuals on both sides of that. Kevin is an experienced individual on a board of directors. He's got a really good, solid approach. He's a great South Dakotan and a good guy. And I would strongly support his nomination to the Game Fish and Parks Commission. And he's got big shoes to fill. Jim White has been an excellent member as well. He was a great member of this body for a number of years. And so having Kevin succeed Jim White is a great continuation of what has been a series of really solid appointments to Game Fish and Parks Commission. And I would strongly encourage his support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanderson. Further proponent testimony on this executive appointment. Further proponent testimony. Seeing none, is there any opponent testimony to this executive appointment? Opponent testimony. Seeing none, there's no need for any type of rebuttal. Move to committee questions. Any questions of the committee on this executive appointment? Mr. Simpson, is this Mr. Nyberg right here? Would you like to come introduce yourself, sir? I think that would be appropriate. Please introduce yourself, say a few words about why you want to be on the commission.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank Deputy Secretary Simpson and Nathan for the wonderful comments. Wow, very, very honored. I'm passionate about South Dakota outdoors. I feel I'm very connected with South Dakota outdoors, having a place in the hills, a 1,000-acre farm in White Lake, and a lake home at Lake Hendricks. And when you say that, you always have to preface that you're on the South Dakota side. Thank God. But yeah, very passionate. I've had the fortunate honor to serve on the foundation board. And as many of you know, I believe the foundation has made great strides in the last few years and is doing wonderful things to help support the Game Fish and Parks Department. And I will say that I've had a privilege of getting to know quite a few staff members within the department. They're excellent, they're professional, and we of South Dakotans can truly be proud of the GF&P department we have and the wildlife resources we have. The vision of the foundation is to enhance and promote wildlife recreational use for generations to come. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. I'm passionate about South Dakota and the outdoors.
Senator Marty, did you have a question directly for Mr. Nyberg?
No, for the prime, I guess.
Okay, well.
Or is that out of order?
No, I mean, it's fine. I thought that you had said. I'm gonna ask Mr. Nyberg a question since he's here, since he's in the hot seat. I asked this question to a previous appointment as well. South Dakota has these laws regarding non-meandered waters and whatnot. What is your view on how that strikes on that balance between landowner rights and the interests of sportsmen when it comes to the non-meandered waters?
Well, I can tell you I've not had personal experience with it. However, I'm aware of the issue. I think the word compromise comes up, and I'm all in when it comes to compromise between the landowner and the sportsman. And I think the department has done a wonderful job with the buoys and the regulations that follow meandering water issues.
So, go ahead and ask your question to Mr. Nyberg then.
I don't know anything about these boards. Is this a paying job, or do you just volunteer for it?
I believe it's volunteer. I believe it's volunteer. Which
Okay,
board?
bully
Which
for
board?
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Further questions for Mr. Nyberg? Senator Voigt.
If I could, Mr. Nyberg, if you were to look out 10 years from now, what would you hope that Game Fish and Parks has done for the state of South Dakota and those who enjoy what you have to offer?
Yeah, good question, Senator. Thank you. I think the department's on the right track at this time with what they're doing with the outdoor campuses. We need to nurture younger people getting involved in the outdoors. And for the sake of the department, our state, wildlife resources, it's imperative that we keep the next generation involved in hunting and fishing and camping. All three are important. And so, yes, that would be what I would say the focus has to be. I'm a marketing guy also, and I've said this when I speak on behalf of the foundation. I think there needs to be more private and public working together, and I think we have a long way to go in that regard. There's a lot of opportunities that the public can get involved more in the private sector, which would be the department.
Further questions of the committee of Mr. Nyberg? All right, we'll move on then and go to committee discussion and or action.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Whiff.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank former Senator White of Huron for his many years of service to our state in many different capacities. I consider him to be a mentor and a great guy. Also, thank you to Mr. Nyberg for being willing to step into this role. Seems like a good fit to me, and I'm going to move that we do advise and consent to the Senate. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to do advise and consent to the executive appointment of Mr. Nyberg to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Commission by Senator Whiff, seconded by Senator Duhamel. Further comments on the motion? Seeing none, I will just say I think I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate your willingness to serve on the commission, and appreciate you sitting in the hot seat and taking a few questions. So it's good to put a name with the face, and for you being here. So with that, I would ask the secretary to call the roll.
Senators Davis,
Aye.
Duhamel,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Voigt,
Aye.
Whiff,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pischke.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 7 yeas.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion having received the majority of the members elect, we'll move to the floor with a do approve motion. Okay, moving on. Next thing on our agenda is the executive appointment of Chuck Spring, Meade County Union Center, to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Commission. We will now hear proponent testimony on this executive appointment.
Mr. Chair, again, Scott Simpson, Deputy Secretary for the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. Echo Senator Whipp's comments about Jim White. He's been a tremendous contribution to the commission, and is going to be kind enough to join us here at the end of the week for our last commission meeting, and we'll make sure that we get him sent off in the right fashion, and hopefully stick him with a dinner bill or something. So. Mr. Chair, I'm here today to support the nomination of a familiar face, Charles Spring of Union Center for the Game Fish and Parks Commission. You may recognize Commissioner Spring as he served on the Game Fish and Parks Commission from 2020 to 2024. Commissioner Spring has spent his lifetime ranching near Union Center. He's been married for 51 years to his wife, Clarine, and they have 3 sons who also help run the ranch. Commissioner Spring has experience with our West River Deer Task Force and Depredation Committee prior to his time with the Commission, and during his time was also a major advocate for deer management, particularly mule deer. Commissioner Spring shares what he sees on the landscape and what he is hearing from his neighbors and fellow hunters as well. His roots run deep across western South Dakota, and he brings that every day as a commissioner. I've had the privilege of knowing Commissioner Spring for many years, both from his time on and off in the commission, and I would have to add his hunting stories and experiences he has had throughout his life, along with his passion when he tells them, is what makes him such an excellent candidate for the Game Fish and Parks Commission. I would also add from personal experience that Chuck is a man of very few words. But when he decides to speak, I have learned that it is best to just shut up and listen to him. For those reasons, today I ask you for your appointment of Chuck Spring to the GFP Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Further proponent testimony on this executive appointment. I think, Mr. Spring, would you like to just come forward during this part of the testimony, just to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and why you would like to be appointed to this commission?
I'd like to thank the governor for putting me in this position or asking me to be in it, and I've been a lifetime rancher, live at Union Center. My wife and we have 4 kids. I've loved to hunt and fish all my life. I've just loved the animals, and I really enjoy being on the commission. I think I have some of the knowledge that might help, and Scott, he kind of bragged me up, but I really think I can do a good job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming here today. Is there any other proponent testimony if people like to speak up to this as a proponent to this executive appointment? Seeing nobody move forward, is there anybody who'd like to speak up as an opponent to this executive appointment? Seeing nobody, we'll waive rebuttal then and move to questions of the committee. Is there any questions of anybody on the committee of Mr. Spring? Senator Duhamel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How about the same question? In 10 years, what kind of changes would you like to see, if any, with the GF&P and the direction they're moving?
I think on a general point, they're going in a lot of good directions. We need to get young people more involved. They've got programs working on that. At this time, some of the wildlife took a beating with the diseases and stuff, the deer and the antelope and whatever, and I know the department will work real well, and I have some ideas to maybe help, and it's going in a good direction. I'm real happy with the department.
Further questions of the committee. Senator Voigt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Personal privilege. Mr.
Sure.
Springs, I acknowledge your integrity in terms of that shirt you're wearing and what it has on there of our state bird.
Further questions of the committee of Mr. Spring. Senator Jensen.
Thank you. Over the last number of years, we hear a lot about the elk depredation, especially down in the prairie areas and around the Black Hills. Is there anything, there's no magic answer, but do you have anything that you could add that you might, I know we put up fences and we try to do different things to protect the farmers and the ranchers. Is there anything else that we're missing?
I think the department is going to have to work real hard with to keep the numbers down on the prairie elk. I don't know, they're multiplying real fast, and we need to keep them numbers down because depredation can be pretty bad in those areas. As far as the Black Hills, I know they're promoting to raise the herd in the upper hills, which I think could be probably be a pretty good idea as long as we don't get a lot of drought or whatever. But because I'll still stand up for the cattle people that are putting cattle in there. I mean, if grazing gets short, we'll have to hold the herd down. But overall, the elk population is pretty good, and it's multiplying fast in the prairie.
Further questions? I'd like to ask a question as well, and I'll avoid the non-meandered waters since that's not your part of the state. But I guess my question I'll ask you, since you are from this part of the state, is about antelope hunting. In recent years, the antelope numbers have been down, and it's become a little bit of frustration from some East River hunters that like to come out to your part of the world and hunt antelope. In fact, I have 2 preference points, and I still wasn't able to get a tag this last year. So what are some of the ideas that you have to kind of help with, if possible, to help with the antelope numbers and help those hunters succeed, achieve that success in that hunt?
Well, the storms in the last few years, as well as other things, have really dropped the numbers. The numbers are down. And I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems is that they're not coming back very fast because of the predator. Coyotes clean them up regularly as fawns. And I think as far as deer and antelope, to get our numbers back, we're going to have to do something like a bounty or whatever. We've got to knock the coyotes down. And when numbers get low and you still have the same amount of coyotes, fawn population just really takes a beating, and there's none left. And if you don't have reproduction, the numbers don't come back.
Okay. So yeah, let's do something about those coyotes, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, moving on then, we'll go to committee discussion and or action. Senator Duhamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to advise and consent to the nomination of Chuck Spring, Meade County Union Center, to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Division.
So we have a motion from Senator Duhamel, a second from Senator Jensen to do advise and consent to the executive appointment of Chuck Spring to the GF&P Commission. Would you like any further comments on the motion from anybody? No? Again, I'd like to just thank you, Mr. Spring, for being here today and putting a face with the name and coming and answering all the tough questions that we put before you. So thank you for being here. And with that, I would ask the secretary to please call the roll on the motion.
Senators Davis,
Aye.
Duhamel,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Voigt,
Aye.
Whiff,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pischke.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have 7 ayes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion having received the majority vote of the members elect of the committee, that motion is passed, and that will go to the floor for consideration tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spring. You can
Thank
step
you.
down and turn off your mic. We'll move on in our agenda to our bill hearing. And our only bill that we have up today is House Bill 1263, which is a bill to eliminate an exclusion from the definition of an agricultural equipment dealer. Before we get started, just let you know that we have quite a bit of time, but this does seem like it's going to be a lengthy discussion. So I put the timer on, and whatever time that the proponents use, I'll give equal time to the opponents, just in the interest of fairness. So we will move to proponent testimony on House Bill 1263. Representative Jameson, welcome to Senate Ag.
Thank you. Good morning. Greg Jameson, District 12, Sioux Falls. House Bill 1263 is necessary to address the situation in current law that penalizes certain equipment dealers. Today, farm equipment dealers that sell a specified percentage of construction equipment are penalized from receiving full warranty reimbursement for required repairs. House Bill 1263 simply allows farm equipment dealers, regardless of how much construction equipment they sell, to seek fair warranty reimbursement. I ask for your approval and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Representative. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Justin Smith, attorney from Sioux Falls, the registered lobbyist for Pioneer Equipment Dealers Association, which is the association that represents all dealers in North Dakota and South Dakota. So having the page pass out a handout packet includes a couple of things: a support statement from my client, a side-by-side comparison of warranty reimbursements to these dealers with and without House Bill 1263, a South Dakota agribusiness support statement, Associated Equipment Distributors support letter. So what does this bill actually do? Chapter 3239 has 4 statutes that govern the compensation of an agricultural equipment dealer when the dealer performs mandatory warranty work. When the ag equipment dealer sells the equipment for a manufacturer, the dealer must perform any and all warranty work on equipment made by the manufacturer. Chapter 3239 then requires the manufacturer to fairly compensate the dealer for the warranty work, including labor, parts, transportation, and other items for the equipment. For purposes of these statutes, agricultural equipment is defined as equipment exempted from registration and licensing by sections 32.5 1.3 and 1.4. That includes a farm wagon, a farm implement drawn by another vehicle, a farm vehicle designed and used primarily for tillage, harvesting, or transportation of ag products by or for ag producers, and any 3-wheeled or 4-wheeled ATV used to get to and from a field or pasture used in the course of farm labor. This is an expansive list, and all the dealers represented here today sell those types of equipment. All the dealers represented here today must perform warranty work on those types of equipment. The term agricultural equipment as used in 3239 is only used in this chapter under our code, and in one other place, which is in 60-12-3, which is a child labor law. Otherwise, that term is not used anywhere else in our code, and that's an important point. So why can the manufacturers avoid fairly reimbursing some ag equipment dealers for required warranty work? It's because the term dealer under Chapter 3239 excludes, quote, a dealer whose principal business is the sale of off-road construction equipment. So if a dealer falls under this exclusion, the manufacturer can refuse to reimburse the dealer certain parts of the warranty work the dealer does on ag equipment. And our handout shows the shortfall comparisons between a dealer that's included under 3239 and one that's excluded under the sentence we're trying to delete with HB 1263. But the dealer is still required to perform the warranty repairs, transport the equipment, and install parts, but at little to no fair payment for certain of the categories. There is no legitimate justification for paying a business less than fairly just because a majority of its business is in selling construction equipment. The dealer still sells ag equipment. The dealer is still required to do warranty work for the manufacturer of the ag equipment, including transport and labor. It stands to reason that the manufacturers are here today opposing this bill. It saves them money to require a dealer to do warranty work on their ag equipment products, but only have to pay heavily discounted rates for legitimate work. Frankly, the sentence we want to strike is not only fundamentally unfair, it's legally nonsense. The term principal business is not defined anywhere in the statutes, and the term off-road construction equipment is only used in this one statute under our entire code of laws. How do dealers know they fall under this exception? Because the manufacturers pay the dealer unfairly for the required warranty work, and they cite to this statute. So the strategy of the opponent manufacturer seems to be to create as much confusion about this bill as possible. I'm going to go through some of the arguments that I know you've heard in opposition to this bill. First, quote, this bill would extend ag warranty reimbursement to construction equipment. This chapter only applies to manufacturers of ag equipment, and ag equipment as defined under the statutes. This bill is just intended to clarify that a dealer is still an ag equipment dealer and entitled to fair reimbursement, even if it happens to sell construction equipment. 2, the construction equipment industry operates under another distinct statutory framework in Chapter 37.5. First, I challenge the opponents to point out the statutes in Chapter 37.5 that apply warranty reimbursement requirements to construction equipment. There are none in that chapter. It is a deliberate mislead. 37.5 12.4 there's two statutes under that chapter that even mention warranty reimbursement. 37.5.12.4 is not construction equipment under the specific definitions, and 37.5.17 deals with outdoor power equipment. Again, that's not ag equipment, it's not construction equipment. Those terms are separate under Chapter 37.5. Now, second, the bill and Chapter 3239 only apply to warranty reimbursement work required to be done on ag equipment. What's the third argument? This bill violates the U.S. Constitution's Contracts Clause by applying retroactively to existing dealership contracts. In your packet, the last page is a copy of SDCL 21421. Quote, no part of the Code of Laws shall be construed as retroactive unless such intention plainly appears. HB 1263 does not plainly state that it is intended to or does apply retroactively. I'm going to quote from the Dahl versus Sittner decision from our South Dakota Supreme Court, 474 Northwest 2nd, 897 in 1991. Quote, the general rule is that newly enacted statutes will not be given a retroactive effect unless such an intention is plainly expressed by the legislature. Opponents mentioned two Eighth Circuit cases and claim those decisions apply here. Neither decision is relevant to HB 1263, and I'm happy if the committee would like me to go through both of those decisions, chapter and verse, to do so, but I would just tell you, one of those statutes at issue in the 2001 decision from the Eighth Circuit, the statute specifically said this is intended to apply retroactively. 1263 doesn't do that. The second one, which was a South Dakota statute, actually, on its face, modified existing manufacturer and dealer contracts. This bill does not. It simply strikes an exception under the law. The opposition must show the provision at issue actually exists in its dealership contracts, which it does not. Another argument, this bill would only benefit a single equipment dealer, DMI. This bill will ensure many South Dakota dealers get fair payment for doing warranty work on ag equipment, including Butler Machinery, all Bobcat dealers, and others. Finally, this bill will not help the little guy. Farmers do not take their ag equipment to the manufacturers who oppose this bill, none of whom are located in this state. The farmer goes to the local hometown dealer for warranty work, which the dealer is required to perform. If you are looking for a little guy in this fight, it certainly isn't the opponents, all of whom are international corporations with no connection to South Dakota except through your local ag equipment dealers. So in closing, current warranty laws penalize ag equipment dealers that sell construction equipment by making those dealers ineligible for warranty reimbursement under the law. The existing exclusion in 3239.3 is obsolete in a time when our equipment dealers have made business decisions to diversify their product lines. All ag equipment dealers are here today asking for you to pass HB 1263 for the sake of fairness and necessary updates to our law. I'll stand by for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Please turn on your microphone and then introduce yourself. Thank you.
My name is Dave Jacobson. My wife Camille and I own a authorized Bobcat equipment dealership in Brookings. We've been open for about 17 years and currently employ 11 full-time employees. As a factory authorized Bobcat equipment dealer, we are contractually mandated to do warranty work, and I'm fine with that. I believe as an equipment dealer, we should stand behind our products along with the manufacturer. Whether we sold those machines or not, we have to stand behind them. However, the problem is Bobcat Company, along with other manufacturers, don't pay us fairly for that work. They pay us much less, and along with other manufacturers, we have no ability to negotiate that. In some cases, myself and other dealers are paid 60% or less of our retail free market rate for warranty repairs, and that simply isn't fair. In 1998, the South Dakota legislature passed a law that requires manufacturers to reimburse their dealers fairly. And it was widely recognized that we needed those protections. And you look for the definition of the little guy, and that's me. I'm a single store dealer in Brookings, South Dakota. That's kind of the definition of a little guy. The problem is if our gross sales of construction equipment exceed our gross sales of farm equipment, we're excluded from the law. When I started in business, my sales were about 70-30. 70% of our machines went to a farm, right to a farm, and 30% to everything else. Today, due to a number of factors, one including the decline in individual family farms in South Dakota, our ratio is flipped. Today, 40% of my machines go to a farm and 60% on average to everything else. Construction, landscape, concrete, homeowners with acreages, and we're excluded from the law. This bill removes the off-road construction equipment dealer exclusion. HB 1263 does not change the current warranty reimbursement laws. It purely allows all farm equipment dealers, regardless of how much construction equipment we sell, to seek reasonable and fair warranty reimbursement under the law. Please pass this bill and create a level playing field between all dealers. Thank you for your time today, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Okay. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Liv Stavik, Executive Director and Registered Lobbyist for the South Dakota Agribusiness Association. We represent a wide variety of agribusinesses. Equipment dealers are among them, and for the reasons you heard before, we do support this bill as well. I won't repeat what has been said, but I think it's important for us to note the context. Economic reality facing our rural communities right now. Farming economy is tight, equipment sales are down, and margins are narrow. Many dealerships have diversified, adding construction equipment lines or expanding service offerings, simply to remain viable in challenging times. We should not penalize rural South Dakota businesses for diversifying and finding ways to stay profitable during a downturn in our ag economy. Let's also not forget, South Dakota does not have ag equipment manufacturers located and headquartered in South Dakota. What we do have are locally owned dealerships employing South Dakotans, paying taxes, and investing in their communities. This bill supports South Dakota businesses, not out-of-state manufacturers. When a combine goes down in October, it is not the manufacturer that shows up to do those repairs. It is the local dealership. Our members are simply asking for equal treatment under the law so they can continue to provide the service infrastructure that farmers and ranchers rely on. We urge a do pass.
Thank you, Ms. Slavik. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Christine Vinatieri Erickson. I'm the president of South Dakota Auto Dealers Association and South Dakota Trucking Association. We do not just represent the automobile industry. We also represent RV, power sport, heavy truck dealers, which many of them sell ag and construction equipment, amongst even things such as trailers, boats, and snowmobiles. Why does this matter? In a rural state such as South Dakota, we have dealerships with a broad range of equipment as stated above. These dealerships serve an important role in filling the needs of our rural citizens and getting quick equipment up and running quickly when a warranty issue may arise. This bill corrects an unfair exclusion in the current law. South Dakota already requires manufacturers to fairly reimburse agriculture equipment dealers for warranty work. However, some dealers lose those protections simply because their construction equipment sales exceed their farm equipment sales. House Bill 1263 ensures all ag equipment dealers are treated equally regardless of the sales mix. This does not expand the law, does not create new mandates, or change reimbursement rates. It simply applies existing protections consistently. The question before you is this: why would a dealership with a broad range of agriculture and construction equipment brands not be treated the same as a standalone agricultural dealership when it comes to warranty reimbursement? Today, we ask for you to support 1263, support those local-owned dealerships that employ South Dakotans and serve our rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Deb Mortensen, representing the Associated General Contractors. Those are South Dakota businesses who build your roads, bridges, and commercial buildings. We are here today to support our equipment dealer members who ask for your favorable consideration of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mortensen. Further proponent testimony.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Nathan Sanderson. I'm the Executive Director of the South Dakota Retailers Association. We have a number of equipment dealers, construction equipment dealers all throughout the state. We would encourage your support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanderson. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263.
Morning, Chair, members of the committee. Matthew Bogue, registered lobbyist for South Dakota Farm Bureau. Just for the sake of time and brevity, echo the comments, particularly from Ms. Stavik, our GS vote on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further proponent testimony on House Bill 1263. Further proponent testimony in the room. Seeing nobody, we do have one online testifier, Mr. Dan Healy. Would you like to introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony?
Yes, good morning, Senators. My name is Dan Healy, and I own a company called Diesel Machinery. I'm a proud third-generation owner with two sons currently in the business, hoping to make it a fourth generation. We have locations in Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Aberdeen. Our primary business revolves around the sale and service of off-road construction equipment. So this bill squarely affects my business. As the years have gone by, we have increasingly done business with the agricultural industry. For example, I now sell tractors and other equipment to farmers. For one reason or another, my company has been excluded from the warranty laws provided to most other ag dealers in the state that do not sell primarily construction equipment. Truthfully, I don't understand what my primary business has to do with anything. The way these laws are written, if I mainly sold donuts, my farm equipment sales would be covered under the law, but because I sell construction equipment, it is not. This makes no sense. We are just here today asking to be treated fairly. Please pass House Bill 1263.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. Further there's nobody named Scott on Teams at this point. Further proponent testimony, though. Seeing none, we're going to move to opponent testimony. Opponent testimony on House Bill 1263. Anybody in the room? Mr. Rudowich, are you here as an opponent?
Yes, I am.
Okay, why don't you provide your opponent testimony?
Thank you, Chair. Chairman Pischke and members of the committee, thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify today. My name is Nick Rudowich, and I'm the Director of State Affairs for the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. AEM represents over 1,100 equipment manufacturers that build the agricultural and construction equipment relied upon by South Dakota farmers, ranchers, and contractors. Our industry supports over 20,000 jobs in the state of South Dakota and contributes roughly $2.5 billion to the state economy every year. I'd like to note for the record that AEM team members Jason Golt and Rob Schamsberg are present in the hearing room today. And I'd also like to mention that AEM got involved as soon as possible on HB 1263 and have been engaged ever since. Today, I want to focus on three core problems with House Bill 1263. House Bill 1263 presents serious constitutional issues relating to existing contracts. Delays repairs for farmers, and House Bill 1263 will increase costs across agriculture and construction. First, if enacted, HB 1263 will violate existing contracts and is unconstitutional. This brings me to the most serious issue with House Bill 1263. HB 1263 would extend Chapter 32-39, South Dakota's Agricultural Equipment Warranty Section, to construction equipment. And I think we've all heard that today from the proponents. This isn't about agricultural dealers being reimbursed. They already are covered under 32-39. This is about bringing construction equipment under 32-39. That raises significant constitutional concerns. And HB 1263 would retroactively alter existing warranty and dealer agreements between manufacturers and dealers. Contracts that were negotiated, signed, and priced under a completely different legal framework. The U.S. Constitution prohibits states from passing laws that impair existing contractual obligations, and the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, which South Dakota is a part of, has repeatedly ruled on this issue. In fact, AEM has successfully challenged similar laws in the Eighth Circuit in 2019 and in 2012, where courts rejected state attempts to retroactively rewrite warranty relationships between manufacturers and dealers. These rulings make clear states cannot change the rules after contracts are signed, and they cannot impose new financial obligations retroactively. And HB 1263 would do exactly that. By forcing agricultural-specific warranty mandates onto construction equipment, including contracts already in effect, the bill will impair existing contracts, interfere with interstate commerce, and expose South Dakota to costly litigation. This is not a theoretical concern. Courts have consistently struck down similar laws, and House Bill 1263 would place South Dakota on the wrong side of a well-established legal precedent. The second point, House Bill 1263 will delay repairs for farmers. As we all know, for farmers, especially during planting and harvest, timely repairs are critical. Equipment failures don't just slow operations, they directly impact yields and income. As I mentioned before, House Bill 1263 would extend Chapter 32-39, South Dakota's agricultural warranty statute, to construction equipment, even though construction equipment is already governed under Chapter 37-35. It's the chapter that my members operate under on the CE side or the construction side. Chapter 32-39 includes strict timing mandates. Warranty claims must be approved within 30 days. Claims must be paid within 30 days. And any claim not denied in writing within that window is automatically approved after that window. Those rules were written specifically for the agricultural equipment market. By applying them to construction equipment, House Bill 1263 fundamentally changes how repair resources will be prioritized. And here's why that matters. The two largest equipment suppliers in South Dakota agriculture also manufacture construction equipment. As we know, dealers do not have unlimited technicians, and there's already a national technician shortage. During harvest, when a farmer's tractor breaks down or they have issues, the technician would normally fix that tractor may now be required to prioritize a skid steer, a loader, or an excavator. Because manufacturers must meet a statutory 30-day deadline on construction equipment that was never subject to those rules before. The result is simple. The repair lines are going to get longer, and farmers are going to move back in line during the most critical weeks of the year. Even a delay of a few days during harvest can translate into significant financial losses for South Dakota farmers. The third point, House Bill 1263 will increase costs across multiple sectors. Chapter 32-39 requires manufacturers to reimburse dealers for warranty work at a cost plus 30%. So if warranty repair costs a dealer $20,000, the manufacturer has to pay $26,000 for that repair. Construction equipment is not subject to this markup under current law, which is why the provision is so central to those who support House Bill 1263. And I'd like to mention under Chapter 37-35, where construction equipment is governed and that relationship is governed, it does not restrict markups. Markups can be negotiated between manufacturers and dealers and manufacturers. It's a point of business. Construction equipment is not, as was communicated directly to me by Representative Jameson, the goal of the bill is to extend that 30% markup, particularly to skid steers, which are not considered agricultural equipment today as they are sold by construction dealers. And Chapter 37-35, 12.4, actually sets out requirements of the manufacturer, which are retail rates. But once again, those set floors. Those are not requirements. Those specific issues could be negotiated in a contract negotiation between manufacturers and dealers. But manufacturers price equipment by building anticipated warranty costs into the purchase price. For agricultural equipment, this markup is already accounted for. For construction equipment, it is not. As the Engine Equipment Manufacturers Association, which submitted a letter to this committee, correctly notes, manufacturers book warranty costs at the time of sale, and House Bill 1263 imposes new costs that were never priced into construction equipment in South Dakota. What does that mean? It means higher equipment prices, higher repair costs, and higher costs passed on to farmers and contractors alike. This is especially true for manufacturers who do not manufacture agricultural equipment at all and have never operated under Chapter 32-39. So in conclusion, House Bill 1263 creates three clear harms. One, it increased costs across agriculture and construction. 2, it will delay repair for farmers, especially during harvest. And 3, there are serious constitutional violations that put the state at legal risk. South Dakota has separate statutes for agriculture and construction equipment for a reason. They reflect different markets, different repair models, and different contractual relationships. House Bill 1263 does not fix a broken system, it breaks one that already works. For these reasons, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers respectfully urges the committee to oppose House Bill 1263. Thank you once again for the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rudowich. Again, ask for further opponent testimony on House Bill 1263. Are we all moving forward as opponents? We're all just leaving? Okay. I thought we really were having a tidal wave of opponents there. Okay, we'll ask one more time. Further opponents to House Bill 1263. All right, seeing nobody move forward, we will now move to rebuttal. Mr. Smith, looks like you're going to handle rebuttal.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman. Justin Smith, attorney from Sioux Falls, registered lobbyist for Pioneer Equipment Dealers Association. So I don't want to repeat my testimony, but I would point out that I forget the one opponent's name from AEM, the national organization. I addressed all of his arguments during my proponent testimony on the bill. I literally rebutted everything he just said in response to the bill based on South Dakota state law. I discussed the Eighth Circuit decisions, the 2019 decision in Association of Equipment Manufacturers versus Burgum, which struck down, and then the 2002 decision in Equipment Manufacturers Institute versus Bill Janklow, which is the one South Dakota case, and struck down or called into question the constitutionality 37-514, which said the following circumstances are not cause for the termination or discontinuance of a dealership contract. That statute dealt specifically with existing contracts in place at the time that law was put into effect. Clearly implicated the U.S. Contracts Clause. Striking one sentence from 3239.3 does not do that. The statute, the contracts at issue do not include specific provisions dealing with this issue. So again, I have rebutted by citation to South Dakota law, SDCL 21421, statutes enacted by the legislature do not apply retroactively unless they specifically say they do. The Dahl versus Sittner decision from 91 from our South Dakota Supreme Court, which said newly enacted statutes do not apply retroactively, including to existing contracts when they go into effect. The opponent talked about extensively Chapter 3735. That statute deals with firearms, accessories, and ammunition. This is why our legislature makes state law based on local voices, local issues, and local businesses, not out-of-state national organizations. I already talked about the chapter I think the opponent was mentioning, 37.5, which simply does not apply to warranties or obligations under construction equipment contracts, period. I challenge him to point out the statutes under there that apply in that way. So one question that I think is going to be asked, what if this would allow dealers to get warranty reimbursement for off-road construction equipment? First, the exception has legal problems anyway, since that term, off-road construction equipment, is undefined and used nowhere else in code. Second, if a dealer is selling equipment to a farmer for ag purposes, doesn't that equipment become ag equipment? So why can the dealer not get fairly reimbursed for warranty work it is required to do? The manufacturers get the benefit of having a captive dealer that must do warranty work for a farmer, even on a piece of equipment that may be normally labeled as a construction equipment. But it gets to severely shortchange the dealer just because of an arbitrary and unfair exception in a statute, which the opponents have not explained why that exception makes sense, why it's right-sized for South Dakota today, especially in our diversified equipment dealer market. The goal of these statutes is to protect equipment dealers who do required warranty work for our South Dakota farmers and ranchers, regardless of the type of equipment at issue. After all, a dealer that sells a majority of ag equipment today gets reimbursed fully under the law, even if the equipment is considered by some to be construction equipment. Because if it's used on a farm or a ranch, they get reimbursed just because they happen to sell a majority of ag equipment. So if it's equipment used on a farm or ranch operation, it's unfair to the dealer that the manufacturer has a statutory shield that lets it pay one dealer much less for the same required work just because of a business model that that dealer chooses to adopt for the benefit of its local buyers and its own owners. This bill makes sense for South Dakota. It is about fundamental fairness and treatment. The opponents have raised no good arguments on why this bill should not pass today, and that's why the House passed this bill with only 3 dissenting votes several weeks ago. It is a good bill for South Dakota and especially for your local hometown equipment dealers. We'd ask you to please pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We'll now move on to committee questions. Is there any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Whiff.
Well, one of the arguments that was raised by the gentleman from AEM was additional costs to consumers, and that was not rebutted. Would anybody like to cover what happens when construction equipment manufacturers just pass these costs back down to their consumers? We don't have any construction equipment consumers in the room, so I can't ask them specifically.
Sorry. Good morning again. Dave Jacobson, Brookings, South Dakota, Bobcat dealer. 100% false. The last thing I worry about when a customer has a warranty repair problem or a breakdown of any sort is how my pocket is going to get reimbursed. Mr. Healy, I've never met him. I'm very familiar with what DMI does and what they sell, and I'm very familiar with their outstanding reputation in the construction and ag equipment markets. He runs a phenomenal business, and I guarantee he doesn't worry about that stuff after the fact. He worries about taking care of the customer. The fact that his statement about adding expense to the farmer about his combine getting fixed, or in my case, his skid steer getting fixed, we don't add extra expenses for that sort of stuff, for travel, for diagnostic time to that customer. That's what should be reimbursed to us from the manufacturer in the laws that are already in place for ag equipment dealers. That's what should be reimbursed to us. 100% false that is going to add expense to the farmer or even to the contractor using construction equipment.
Follow up, Senator Whiff?
Well, right. So I guess you're saying that the manufacturers don't set the price for their equipment informed by the section of law that is going to govern that piece of equipment, not just at the point of sale, but all of the warranty work that happens after that. Because I just want to keep it as a question. You're not concerned that manufacturers will just tack these costs onto what they charge, and this is why they have regional pricing, right? This state's different than that state.
I don't believe there's, and I'm speaking for Bobcat equipment specifically because that's all I currently sell. I don't believe there's regional pricing. My dealer cost, with the exception of freight, would be the same as a dealer in New York or the dealer in Florida. With the exception of freight, costs more money to get stuff to Florida than it does to Brookings.
Senator Whiff, do you have a follow-up?
No.
We can come back later.
Yeah.
Senator Jensen, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I think we've heard, or I have been heard repeatedly, that we get to harvest time and the farmer's equipment breaks down, a combine or whatever, he's going to take a back seat to other warranty work. Could somebody address that? Is that true? Or how would, under what conditions would the farmer be set back in harvest because he had to wait?
Mr. Jacobson, would you like to take a crack at that question? Or phone a friend? You don't have to answer every question.
I don't need to phone a friend. Thank you, though. Maybe in a minute. In a former life, I was a John Deere dealer. My dad and family owned 2 John Deere dealerships, one in Brookings, one in Garrettson. We also sold Bobcat construction equipment, ag equipment at that location. The squeaky wheel at times gets the grease. The customer that is broke down with a warranty repair sometimes gets preferential treatment, but not always. It would strictly be a case-by-case basis. I have lots of dairy farmers in my area. Thankfully, we sell a lot of machines to dairies. Those guys are extremely demanding. We don't take a back seat whether it's under. We don't differentiate between warranty repair or a non-warrantable repair when it comes to servicing a customer. We take care of customers equally. And we worry about everything else on the back end. That's not their concern. It doesn't add expense to them. We should just be reimbursed by what the South Dakota law says. Travel time, diagnostic time, fair margin on parts.
I believe, Mr. Healy, you tried to get our attention on that. Did you want to answer that? And then I'll go to you, Mr. Rudowich, as well, to be fair.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Healy,
I'd like to respond to a couple of different issues here. First of all, the farmer down in the field not getting service. That's ridiculous. I'd be out of business if I treated people like that. For the most part, in my business anyway, you're going to get first come, first serve. But when the farmer calls me and says, hey, I'm down in the middle of the field, it's harvest time, I'm going to call the guy who's up next and say, hey, do you really need that skid steer yesterday? Can I put you off a little bit because I've got a guy who's in real need out in the middle of a field someplace. The great thing about living in South Dakota is that guy who's got the skid steer down will typically say, no, man, go help the guy out. And that's what I do. So I find that a little offensive and ridiculous. Second of all, the cost thing. You know, they're saying, well, this is going to cost the manufacturers $6,000 more to pay the dealer fairly. Well, where do you think that $6,000 is coming from right now? It's coming from me to fix their machine. And why is it coming from me? Because I don't sell enough donuts. If I sold 51% of my business was donuts, they would have to fairly compensate me under these laws. But because I sell 51% construction equipment, they don't have to pay me.
Mr. Rudowich, we'll go. Okay, thank you, Mr. Healy. I appreciate you finding the answer there. Mr. Rudowich, in the essence of fairness, I'll allow you to answer that question as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Mr. Chair, members of the committee, again, Nick Rudowich with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. So I think there's a few things to address here. And they're probably really simple conceptually. There is a markup that is not in, there's a markup in 32-39 that's not in 37-5. I know that point was rebutted, that 37-5 does not impact equipment manufacturers, but I can tell you that the largest equipment manufacturer in the world is governed under that statute directly from them. That's what they told me, and that's what I've heard from all of my other manufacturers. Whether they follow that law or not, we have a diverse set of equipment manufacturers, but that's what they should be following right under that law. Second, when it comes to time, there is now a time clock running on repairs. That does not exist in 37-5. It exists in 32-39. I'm not saying whatsoever that the dealers are not going to fix farmers' equipment. All I'm saying is that that will create delays. And we all know here, especially in this committee in South Dakota, that even the slightest delay at harvest could have significant impacts. So I'm not saying that the dealer will never get there. The dealers are our partners. Different manufacturers handle their relationships with dealers differently. And so you'll probably have a wide representation of that out there. But again, I think it's pretty clear to see that 32-39 has a obligation of the manufacturer to approve a repair. If not, it's automatically approved, meaning that that dealer has to get someone out there to either get that approved or not. So the line is going to become longer. it doesn't really matter, if you're going to help someone first, and I hope you do, Mr. Healy. I really do. Farmers are incredibly important. We try to support the agriculture community as much as we possibly can on the equipment side. I know I interact with national associations and things like that. The one other thing I want to address here is South Dakota law versus federal law. One of the proponents had mentioned that he rebutted my statement. Yes, South Dakota law says one thing, but we have federal legal precedent here. I'm not talking about South Dakota legal precedent. I'm talking about interstate commerce, because as was mentioned here, a lot of the manufacturers are producing this equipment outside of state. So the interstate commerce clause is also enacted here and used. So again, happy to clarify anything else here, but these are not really hard conceptually. There's a markup in 32-39 that's not in 37-5, and there's also a time frame in 32-35 that is not in 37-5.
Okay, moving on. Further questions of the committee? Further questions of the committee? Senator Whiff, did you have any more questions? I know you were chewing on something earlier. Okay. If there's no further questions, we're going to move on to committee discussion and or action.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Whiff.
I guess a few observations, because I know a lot of us have been hearing from both sides, and in a vacuum, both arguments sound pretty okay, and it's our job to try to figure out, I guess, what's in the middle here. So I went home and over the weekend completely clueless on what to think on this, and I think I came back with a little bit more clarity because I just tuned out all the noise and kind of thought about it and looked into the stuff myself. First off, we do have manufacturers in South Dakota that produce farm equipment. I take issue with the idea that just because they're out of our state that they're not our problem and we should be able to treat them however we want. These companies have helped me transform my farm, quite frankly, and I'm happy to have, I guess, access to the latest technology. So that have a little bit of an issue with that. One problem that we run into is the broad definition of what farm equipment is. We heard one proponent say that if they sell it to a farmer, it just becomes farm equipment. And I guess if we wanted to just address the issue of what happens if a bona fide farm dealer starts selling more construction equipment in a given year and they lose their standing under the law, well, a law to deal with that, a bill to deal with that would look very different than what's before us. They're trying to cross off this exception and pull in a whole bunch of equipment that I don't think even a reasonable person driving by on the highway would say, there's an agricultural equipment dealer. And if you read the title of 32-39, it is Compensation of Agricultural Equipment Dealers. So we got to go back to what defines farm equipment. Well, at a big elevator, when they pile up corn, when they're loading trucks and to take it over, they use excavators and the special bucket. And so now that pulls in a whole bunch of new things that could be farm equipment and a whole bunch of things into this part of the law that I think was actually stood up to be friendly to farmers. This wasn't, 3239 was not really for farm equipment dealers so much as their customers, and making sure that farmers get timely repairs and that dealers are incentivized to do those repairs timely. And I'll just note that we don't have any construction workers or construction companies here asking for this. The construction equipment dealers are asking for this. And I just think they're trying to get in on a part of the law that, well, hey, I'd like the 30% markup too. They see an opportunity to get a little better treatment, and you know, I think this needs to be part of a broader conversation on how we make sure that bona fide farm equipment dealers are not being impacted, but instead of doing surgery today, we're trying to use a hammer. And I just don't think that that is right, and unfortunately, I think our friends across the rotunda got this one wrong. And so I'm going to move deferral to the 41st day.
We have a motion to 41st day from Senator Whiff. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'm going to say that motion fails due to lack of a second. So, further discussion and or action on House Bill. Senator Jensen.
I'll do a little bit of a comment and then I'll make the motion. My preface has always been along, if you've got a 6-hour flat rate repair job under warranty why would one dealership get paid less for one piece of equipment versus another based on if they're 51% farm and 50 or 49%? I mean, to me, the equitability comes right down to the flat rate repair or the warranty repair reimbursement should be equal to that dealer, no matter how much of one kind of equipment or the others. So I guess I kind of fall on the simple side of this. So I'd like to make a due pass motion.
We have a due pass motion from Senator Jensen. Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second from Senator Marty. Okay. Further comments on the due pass motion? Senator Jensen, I don't think you...
No, I think I've said it.
Further comments on the due pass motion from the committee? Senator Davis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I've been really wrestling with this bill, and it's I know to the proponents and opponents today, it's obviously very important, and I haven't tried to take any of it lightly. I've tried to really listen today, and because I do, as some of the previous comments have been, of everybody's got great arguments on both sides. For me, I'm coming to the realization that the farmer is paying either way, and it's a matter of who's going to get paid. Is it the manufacturer or is it the dealer? And that's why I'm usually a very vocal motion maker in a lot of committees that I sit on, and why I've been kind of sitting back, because I've really been wrestling with this today, and I just wanted to acknowledge that it's just not a super clean argument today for me per se, and so I'm going to support the motion to just keep the conversation going, and hopefully more clarity comes out as we discuss it further.
Thank you, Senator Davis. Further comments on the due pass motion? Senator Duhamel.
Again, a little confusing for me, out of my lane, but it appears to me, I don't know why it matters how much percentage of what kind of business you do, but that the warranty should go with the piece of equipment. It seems kind of simple, but that's kind of where I land on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duhamel. Further comments on the due pass motion? Senator Whiff.
Well, I'll respond to a comment. The equipment is priced by the manufacturer with what the laws around warranties are going to. So the warranty does follow the piece of equipment. It's just different pieces of equipment are governed differently, and so the end customer ends up paying. Would it be in order to make an alternate motion that we send this to the floor with no recommendation?
It is in order, since the motion of 41st died without a second, and so you would like to make a substitute motion of sending to the floor with no recommendation. We have that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, and a second from Senator Voigt. Further comments on the motion, the substitute motion to send to the floor with no recommendation? Senator Whiff.
Thanks. So the reason I offer it is it does seem like there's a little bit of hesitancy to really come down on one side of this or the other, and the best way that we can highlight that for our friends on the floor before the conversation even starts is that this is a tougher one, and that we need to be very careful how we proceed here.
Further comments on the motion?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Jensen.
Well, I will resist that motion. We're here to hear it. We've heard the testimony. The people on the floor have only heard from the people lobbying both sides. The floor is just as confused as we are. I think it's our obligation to this institution to make this decision right here now. And sending it to the floor with no recommendation is like, we can't make up our mind. I'm sorry, I can't do that, so I'm going to resist that motion.
Further comments on the motion at hand? Seeing no further comments, I guess I kind of agree with Senator Jensen that we should make the decision here, either kill the bill or pass the bill, and so I guess I'm going to resist that motion as well. But nevertheless, we will ask the Secretary to please call the roll on the motion from Senator Whiff, seconded by Senator Voigt, to send to the floor with no recommendation. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Davis.
Aye.
Duhamel.
No.
Marty.
No.
Voigt.
Aye.
Whiff.
Aye.
Jensen.
No.
Pischke.
No.
Mr. Chair, we have 3 yeas and 4 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion having failed to receive the majority vote, that motion fails. So we are back to the original motion, which is a motion of due pass. Is there further comments on that motion? Seeing none, I would ask the Secretary to please call the roll on the due pass motion.
Senators Davis,
Aye.
Duhamel,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Voigt,
Aye.
With,
No.
Jensen,
Aye.
Pischke.
No.
Mr. Chair, we have 5 yeas and 2 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That motion, having received the majority vote of the members-elect, House Bill 1263 will move to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Okay, and that concludes our business for today. Unless there's anything in order for the good of the order, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Senator Davis, second by Senator Jensen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.
65. The first place for Amber Alerts, public safety announcements, and EAS messages. SDPB keeps public servants and citizens informed. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB. SDPB brings you closer to your government. With gavel-to-gavel coverage of the South Dakota legislature and in-depth reporting from Pierre. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
We'll hear out.
they have.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. As long as that was not, which can be either done from here. Like if I.
Oh. you suggested you go out for dinner. I'm way ahead of you by 3 days. I'll take it tonight. And I still couldn't figure it out. I feel better. I just need to.
Nope, you're good. Thank you for your work. Fantastic.
What happened over the
Sales. Get over here.
When South Dakotans need reliable information, SDPB is there providing updates and coverage that keep our communities safe and connected. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.